um, I probably would be more cautious about in terms of how we present it is the sphere story, for the simple fact that we just don't know yet whether it is or it isn't non-human technology.
We have new, conclusive proof, testable evidence of alien technology.
Frankly, whilst a lot of people want us to say, yeah, it's alien technology, we're not going to say that.
We have new, conclusive proof, testable evidence of alien technology. This renowned scientist confirms it all.
Whilst a lot of people want us to say, yeah, it's alien technology, we're not going to say that because that's a terrible danger.
We have new, conclusive proof, testable evidence of alien technology.
A lot of people.
When you say crash retrieval, what do you mean?
These are retrieving non-human origin technical vehicles, call it spacecraft if you will.
Mr. Grush is quite clear that he's not saying it's necessarily extraterrestrial.
Non-human origin.
That he's not saying it's necessarily extraterrestrial.
Call it spacecraft if you will.
That he's not saying it's necessarily extraterrestrial.
Then what are you saying?
Oh, hey, little space monkey.
Non-human origin technical vehicles, call it spacecraft if you will.
Greetings and salutations, friends, and welcome to another episode of Truthseekers. I have the perfect shirt on for tonight, the UFO Circle Jerkers shirt, because this is the biggest UFO circle jerk I think I've ever seen. I'm trying to remain cautiously optimistic, however, but there are a great deal of red flags. If you are unaware, we're covering this supposedly bombshell story by Leslie Kean and Ralph Blumenthal, and of course, our old friend Ross Coulthard, who once promised everybody that he had conclusive proof of alien technology, all confirmed by Michio Kaku, except Michio Kaku didn't confirm anything. And not only did he not have conclusive proof of alien technology for that 100% completely and totally fake story, he had no evidence, right? And then he blamed the producers. Is that his voice in the voiceover saying those things? He could have quit his job and said, I'm not going to lie to people. Instead, he chose to push a completely and totally fake story. I believe that story was over a year ago, the ball shavings, and they were supposed to do an analysis. And by the way, a mass spectrometer analysis of a metal fragment takes 20 minutes to complete. And you would know instantly if that ball was truly an alien probe sitting in somebody's living room, or if it was just a big ball bearing, as many people have said, from an industrial facility. Ross Coulthard being involved in this story killed it for me instantly. And then when we get into Leslie Kean and Ralph Blumenthal, you have to remember, we've been here before, right? The 2016, 2017 New York Times article that was filled with fake information, that was filled with factual inaccuracies. And remember that it's Leslie Kean and Ralph Blumenthal who also brought us the story where Harry Reid said that we have off-world alien crashed retrieved spacecraft. And then they had to retract it because he never said that, right? So the three principal people that are selling this story have 100% been caught selling 100% completely fake stories about aliens and UFOs before. But here we are, and there's a lot of red flags with this story. I cannot believe everybody that believes in aliens and UFOs that I know of is creaming their pants today. They're having a ball. And judging from my inbox of nasty, negative, anonymous people, of course, nobody sends me nasty messages with their real name and their real face. It's always like, Alien Believer 712 at Gmail called me a dickhead, right? Or called, said that I don't know what I'm talking about. And that might be true, but come on. There are so many red flags in this story that I just cannot believe that everybody's doing cartwheels, right? This is the New York Times article all over again. Except it wasn't in the New York Times, and there's a reason for that. And we're going to get into it tonight. We're going to break it all down for you. We welcome old friends and new. We've got a lot of new subscribers. If you're just new to the channel, we want to welcome all of you, and we welcome those of you who have been here for a long time as well. And I've got some special guests tonight. You're going to love this. But before we get to the guests who have their own red flags about this so-called incredible story to share, we're gonna get into the actual story. So the story is that an intelligence operative is saying that the United States government has crashed retrievals, including intact craft, from one second. Let me just get back to the guests there. Including intact craft. But there's an awful lot of problems with this story right from the get-go. Of course, the beginning problems that I have is that all three people that are selling this story have 100% been provably caught selling 100% fake information about UFOs and aliens. Leslie Kean even admitted that she massaged the data in the story, left out all the stuff in her story about werewolves and, dino beavers and poltergeists, right? Because she just wanted to help the UFO community get legitimized. So what we have here is somebody that's not a journalist. She's an activist. And she puts her own slant on the story. She does the lie by omission. Where were they to vet the claims of Luis Elizondo, who claimed to run a secret UFO Pentagon program? Turns out it wasn't secret. Turns out it wasn't funded. Turns out it wasn't even a real program. He later admitted himself it was just an activity, right? And all the hype around that 2016 article is being revisited to us. And today we have all of the true believers going bonkers, claiming that today is the first day of disclosure. This is exactly what happened before with the Luis Elizondo. But Luis Elizondo has been caught publicly lying. I believe, it's my opinion, I'm allowed to have an opinion. He's been caught publicly lying. He's been largely discredited as just another UFO profiteering whore like the rest of them. And so now they got to roll out somebody new. And along comes this new person who apparently is claiming that the United States government is in possession of non-human crash retrievals, including parts and complete craft. And so the actual piece was put out by the debrief. Now, for weeks, maybe months, we have been hearing that whistleblowers are going to come out and there's going to be a huge bombshell story in the Washington Post. And then it doesn't come out in the Washington Post. It comes out in the debrief, which is a real problem because there's also conflicting stories about why it's in the debrief and not the Washington Post or the New York Times. This is such a bombshell, earth-shattering story, and the story is actually true. Why would the New York Times or the Washington Post or Politico or whoever not want it? Now, of course, the debrief is crashing all day today. I can't even get to the article to share it with you. So one second, though. I'm aware that people have posted alternate links to the story. Let me just see 1 second. John from the Black Vault posted an alternate link to the story. Or you know what? We're gonna put up our fair use banner. We'll just go to the video. But I recommend that you read the article if you could. But they went with such a fly-by-night tiny media company because they had to. I'm assuming that the servers of the debrief can't even handle the traffic of what may be tens of thousands of people trying to read the article. And that says everything that you need to know about the legitimacy of this thing, right? The story is so important that they put it on a tiny, virtually brand new media company. And by the way, the debrief pushes garbage constantly. I used to like and respect, what's his name? Tim. I don't any longer. Tim's pushing Lou Elizondo fake garbage for how long now? Now he's pushing this. So there's no one credible here. There's no credible person that is actively involved with this story. It is a disgraced Australian journalist who got laid off or fired or his contract not renewed, depending on who you ask, from 60 Minutes Australia. And did you know why that happened? Because he pushed a 100% provably fake story about a great deal of the British Parliament being involved with let's just call it a child ring. You know what kind of child ring I mean. Turns out all of his sources for that were complete garbage peddlers, liars. So his contract not renewed, fired, depends on who you ask, right? Moved on to better things. Then he jumped into the world of UFOs feet first, and he's been selling fake garbage stories with anonymous sources and more for years now. There hasn't been anything credible from Coulthard. I don't care. Send it to my inbox. Argue with someone else. The guy sells fake stories. Provably, at least twice now, he has been caught selling 100% provably fake stories. But we're supposed to believe him that he got the biggest scoop of the millennium here. I don't think so. I don't. All right, so we are gonna put our fair use banner up, and we'll play the video. Oh, and then the only news media that actually picked up this story is News Nation, who employs Chris Cuomo. You remember the guy that lied about being in quarantine in his basement when he was going outside every day, right? The guy who completely and totally lied. He's another disgraced journalist, got fired from CNN for helping his brother cover up allegations of sexual abuse, right? Real credible. These are real credible people. And go look over there at News Nation. It's all people that are like at the end of their careers. They couldn't get a job anywhere else. News Nation. Great. It's not on CNN. It's not on. So far, the only media outlets picking this up that I have seen are tabloid and clickbait sites. But hey, it's the biggest story of the millennium. So we're citing fair use. This is a transformative work. We're going to go to the video here. And we do have some special guests joining us. Wait till you see who's coming on tonight. It'll be interesting. This is from News Nation.
UFOs exist. The U.S. government found quite a number of them, and they are indeed of non-human origin. Those are the explosive allegations from a former intelligence officer.
I love how they play a debunked UFO video.
That the Inspector General is taking
Great
very
job.
seriously. 36-year-old Air Force veteran David Grush is exposing what he calls a top secret military program that is reportedly.
All right, and here's the other thing that he got authorized to talk about this stuff by the Department of Defense, and we're going to get into that. These can't be classified projects that he's talking about, because if they were, even the existence of them is classified, and you couldn't mention them, right? There's a lot of problems here.
We found wreckage of fully intact UFOs. The government now calls them UAPs, or unidentified anomalous phenomena. For years, there have been whispers and rumors that the government had aircraft of non-human origin.
Yeah, people have been pushing this for at least 30 years that I am aware of, maybe longer. But remember, people are still debating the Bob Lazar story, and we have never gotten any proof. Are we going to be waiting 30 years to get the proof from Leslie Kean, Ralph Blumenthal, and Ross Coulthard on this story? Or is this story going to fall apart in the next few weeks?
This report is the first evidence it might be true. The Inspector General has called Grush's complaint urgent and credible. Tonight, we have a...
Yeah, and I'd like confirmation that the Inspector General said that. And just because they called his complaint about some sort of retaliatory methods being taken against him credible doesn't mean that his claims, his so-called whistleblower claims, are credible. There is some real funny stuff going on with the language being used here. And of course, we have to include Jeremy Corbell's Flare fake UFO in the report here.
World television exclusive interview with the whistleblower in which he claims we not only have the aircraft, but the government has been keeping much of its secret from Congress and from the public. News Nation senior national correspondent Brian Enton is here with the story, and this is a blockbuster.
It is a blockbuster. It's really hard to wrap your mind around this. I've been working on this for the past couple of weeks.
Now, this guy, Brian, I actually like. I watched him covering the Gary Petito story, and I think he did a good job on that. So maybe not everybody at News Nation is a clown, like, you know. And another thing that we need to be aware of is that people are being very careful in saying that News Nation is not covering the story. They're publishing it. And Ross Coulthart is the one. It's almost as if they're giving themselves an out when this entire story comes crashing down as fake. And same for the debrief. Well, we're not, investigating or reporting this story. We're just publishing it for these two. Again, giving themselves an out if the whole story comes crashing down. Why would they give themselves an out like that? And they were both very clear that they're not covering the story, they're publishing it.
I'm still having a hard time
News Nation is
processing
covering
all of it. Over the last couple of years, it sort of became mainstream to discuss UFOs. The government has released videos. They've acknowledged that we don't know what some of this stuff is out there that we have on camera, but this really takes it all to another level. For the very first time, the world is about to hear from a former high-level U.S. intelligence officer who says the government has some of the unidentified craft in its possession. He is revealing these.
Yeah, and I'm getting deja vu because they called Luis Elizondo a high-ranking government official. Remember that? Yeah.
Exclusive details about the secret government program.
By the way, this guy is buddy-buddy with Luis Elizondo, the guy who lied to us about a fake Pentagon UFO program for years, the guy who made tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars by borrowing taxpayer-funded videos out of the Pentagon without permission for public release. Then he got book deals and television show deals based on those 3 videos. And guess what? All 3 of those videos, more or less, have been debunked as nothing spectacular. Isn't that interesting? The lens of time.
We're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west. Oh my gosh, dude. Wow.
Yeah, here's one of those largely debunked videos. There's the go fast. NASA says it's going 40 miles an hour.
Video evidence, if you will, that old tales of UFOs may not all be conspiracy theories. In recent years, Congress starting an official U.S. government unidentified aerial phenomena task force, recently renamed the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or AARO. And now in a News Nation exclusive, David Grush, an Air Force veteran, former member of that task force, and veteran of the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, is formally blowing the whistle on secrets he says no one has ever shared publicly before.
You are one of the most trusted former intelligence officials in the US defense and intelligence establishment.
Yes, I was.
You were trusted with the most intimate secrets.
Yes.
Grush sitting down with award-winning investors.
By the way, now he's a real estate guy. He sells real estate. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but
Investigative journalist Ross Coulthart, who's reporting for News Nation and has spent years reporting.
I love how News Nation calls him an award-winning journalist. They just forget to leave out that he got let go of 60 Minutes Australia for a 100% fake story, right?
On the UFO question.
What conclusion did you come to at the end of your time on the UAP task force?
The UAP task force was refused access to a broad crash retrieval program.
When you say,
and by the way, let's be clear, the United States government has crash retrieval programs. Look up Project Moondust. It's been going on for years. If anything crashes, they try to pick it up. And yes, they try to back engineer it, especially if it's Soviet or Chinese technology. So could this be people mistaking ordinary earthly technology for something super advanced or alien?
Crash retrieval, what do you mean?
These are retrieving non-human origin technical vehicles, call it spacecraft if you will, non-human, exotic origin vehicles that have either landed or crashed.
Notice that he's avoiding the word alien. If they're non-human technology, then what does that mean? Does that mean monkeys built these things? What is non-human technology? Do you mean aliens? Why don't you say aliens? And later, Ross Coulthart backs up things And he's already backpedaling, saying, well, he was very clear. He didn't say these were alien technology. Well, then what is non-human? Were these made by monkeys? Like what non-human species made these things, if not aliens from other planets, right? But again, the language is suspicious here.
We have spacecraft from another species.
We do, yeah.
How many?
Quite a number.
You're kidding.
No. I thought it was totally nuts, and I thought at first I was being deceived. It was a ruse. People started confiding in me. They approached me.
Yeah, and here's the thing we have to consider is that this man has no direct knowledge of any of this. He's just been told things. So what does that mean? Does that mean maybe people like Richard Doty told him things? People like Eric Davis, Hal Puthoff, Lou Elizondo, Christopher Mellon told him things? Who told him things? We don't get to know that.
Plenty of current and former senior intelligence officers that came to me, many of which I knew almost my whole career.
Yeah, there's a nod to Luis Elizondo, if you ask me. I see his fingerprints all over this story, and he's congratulating him for his courage and calling him a hero. So is Christopher Mellon, the same people who brought us the TTSA techno scam and 3 largely worthless videos out of the Pentagon, right? The same people that pushed the whole UFO threat narrative from 2016 forward are now praising this guy as a big American hero.
That confided in me they were a part of a program. They named the program. I've never heard of it. And they told me, based on their oral testimony, and they provided me documents and other proof, that there was, in fact, a program that the UAP task force was not read into.
So there's a program that the UAP task force is not read into, but I'm not sure how we get to that, to alien spacecraft retrievals, including intact craft. It's quite a leap, but people told him this. So remember, this entire story is somebody told me, and he claims he has documents, but he can't release them. And that's another issue. He says they're classified, but they can't be classified because the Defense Department approved him talking about this. And by definition, they would not have approved him talking about this if it involved any classified programs. So right off the bat, there's huge red flags and problems with this guy's story.
Grush alleges the U.S. government has recovered non-human craft for decades. He's filed a whistleblower complaint saying he gave what he calls the classified proof to Congress and the intelligence community inspector general. NewsNation has confirmed David Grush's credentials and resume. We've not seen or verified the alleged proof he says he's provided to investigators. He says
even the people selling this story have not seen his evidence, have not seen his proof, and we'll show more on that. Leslie Keene says it's not a red flag that she didn't see any evidence. If that doesn't inform you that there's a real problem here with this story, that the person writing it up and selling it doesn't care that she didn't see any evidence,
can't show us the proof for national security reasons. He also tells us he's not seen photos of the alleged craft himself, but has talked extensively with other intelligence officials who have.
Okay, so this is secondhand. So-and-so told me. Who told him? Are we going to find out later that it's the normal cast of wackadoos like Eric Davis, Hal Puthoff, Christopher Mellon, Lou Elizondo, Sean Cahill, right? And others who are telling him this stuff? Who is telling him? Why can't we know? You're not blowing the whistle if you're not naming names and showing documents. That's what a whistleblower does. Drops all the information. Not, here's a great story, but I can't give you any of the proof, right?
If you're right, if you're telling us the truth, everyone, the entire American public, has been lied to for decades.
Yeah, there's a sophisticated disinformation campaign targeting the U.S. populace, which is extremely unethical and immoral.
You are saying to the human...
There's definitely a disinformation campaign going on. That's the first time I'm sure he's told the truth. But the problem is that the real UFO cover-up is people selling fake stories without substantial and supportive evidence, let alone overwhelming or smoking gun evidence. That's the problem. That's the real cover-up. And this has been going on for decades. Look into the UFO history. People have been doing this. Remember Bob Lazar? Same story as Bob Lazar, slightly different. Now we've got an intelligence guy, and there's another red flag. Here's another former intelligence guy who is front and center, taking the spotlight in the UFO community, making huge claims, but providing no actual evidence.
Race, for the first time, an official intelligence representative at a high level from the US government is saying publicly, we are not alone.
We're definitely not alone.
It's not the first time. Lou Elizondo said this too. Remember? What proof did Lou Elizondo have? It's years since he's made that comment. On what was it, Fox News? No evidence. He provided no evidence of that yet.
Absolutely, the data points empirically that we're not alone, yeah.
Do we have bodies?
The data points that we're not allowed to see. Now we get another big whopper. We got bodies, friends.
Do we have species of
well,
non-human?
naturally, when you recover something that's either landed or crashed, sometimes you encounter dead pilots. And believe it or not, as fantastical as that sounds, it's true.
It's also harder for.
And where is the evidence? These are huge claims. These would be world-shattering claims. And I have to admit that a small part of me still hopes this story is true.
People to wrap their minds around the concept of a crashed object from
and here's
somewhere
Leslie
else.
Keene. She's going to say she doesn't care. He has no evidence.
Yeah, we see things in the sky that we can't explain.
Journalist Leslie Keene broke Rush's whistleblower story this morning.
She's not a journalist. She's an activist.
In the debrief, Ms. Keane's career has been mainstream and credible, having written a series of reports on UFOs in the New York Times dating back to 2017.
Why didn't the New York Times take this big bombshell story then? Could it be that the New York Times knows something about her and her propensity to, let's just say, play very fast and loose with the facts of a story, or to manipulate or massage the data in order to sell a story that's not, let's just say, not entirely factually accurate? And great, she wrote a story in the New York Times. That whole story has been largely debunked as completely and totally false information. But we're still going to, rah-rah cheerleader for her?
He has the credentials, but there's no documents that he's handed over. There's no pictures. And as a journalist, you want to see documents. You want to see pictures. Does that raise a red flag?
Not at all, Brian. I mean, you mean documents that actually describe the craft?
Correct. Yeah, like government documents, or to be able to see it for ourselves.
Of course. Don't we all want that? And the problem with that is all of that information is classified.
It can't be classified, or the Department of Defense would not have let him do this interview. This interview was cleared. What he was going to talk about was cleared with the Department of Defense. And by the way, the Pentagon disputes any claims of aliens. We'll get into that.
As we said in the story.
But I think the bombshell here is that Leslie Keene just said she doesn't care. It's not a red flag that he didn't show her any evidence. She ran with a story without seeing evidence. She ran with a story just hearing stories, secondhand stories, just stories though.
Everything that Grush told Congress and told the Inspector General of both the IC, the Intelligence Community Inspector General, and the Department of Defense Inspector General, all of that information is classified.
In 2017, Keene reported exclusively in the New York Times that the Pentagon had a secret UFO program. 3 years later, the Pentagon confirmed her story.
Yeah, but they also denied it twice too, so there's a lot of problems with that assertion.
Her latest report is even more explosive, but Keene says she has multiple sources who back up Grush's story.
I believe it because of all.
Is this the wackadoo prover maneuver? When you get one wackadoo to say, yeah, that other wackadoo's telling the truth. Until proven otherwise, that's what I will believe.
All the sources I have who have told me the same thing. So,
and we have to also be sure that we recognize that Leslie Keene's, was it her boyfriend or her husband, was John Mack, alien abduction so-called expert, who put people through hypnotic regressions. And what almost every single person he put through a hypnotic regression remembered being abducted by aliens. He was just an artist. He had no qualifications in either hypnotherapy, psychology, or anything else, physics. He just believed in alien abduction. And that was her, life partner. And this is just problematic.
So who am I to doubt these very, very high-level people who have been inside these programs?
And by the way, her partner, Blumenthal, wrote the book on her husband or boyfriend, John Mack, literally wrote the book on him. So these two are not like two impartial journalists who both care about facts and things. They care about selling stories about aliens. They both provably have made their living selling stories about aliens. Same for Ross Coulthart. Do you think maybe there could be a financial motive behind this story?
For
I
decades, have done their work and are all telling me the same thing. I mean, I don't think there's some kind of conspiracy among all these people who don't know each other to make something like this up.
So I've got to be blunt.
It couldn't be that this is all in the UFO mythology and has been since the 80s, right? This whole stories about crash retrievals. And let's also recognize that many of the stories about crash retrievals are fake. Aztec, largely debunked as fake. Let's see, Roswell, many people think that was just a weather balloon, but I still hold that one in my gray basket. The Trinity story, which Jacques Vallée just sold and made a lot of money selling a book about, was revealed to be completely and totally debunked as a completely, totally fake story. Many of these stories about so-called alien crashes and retrievals are proven to be debunked as fake. And I believe Bob Lazar is one of those stories as well. The originator of much of this, we're trying to back engineer this stuff. It's very problematic. This is like built on a house of cards, like you blow on it and the whole house of cards comes crashing down.
About this, you're not making this up. This is not a lie.
No, absolutely not.
Because everybody watching this right now is looking at your face. Mm-hmm. They're going, is this guy for real?
I am for real. And I'm sitting here at great personal risk and obvious professional risk by talking to you today.
And just within the last 10 minutes or so, the Pentagon has released a statement.
And here's where it gets good, because the Pentagon completely and totally denies this guy's claims. And isn't it interesting that Leslie Kean and Ralph Blumenthal could have reached out to the Pentagon and gotten a statement, but they didn't do that and put a statement from the Pentagon either confirming or denying this man's claims in their original story. Why not? Apparently, John from the Black Vault sent a request off today and got the same statement.
To News Nation about this report. They say to date, AARO has not discovered any verifiable information to substantiate claims that any programs regarding the possession or reverse engineering of extraterrestrial materials have existed in the past or exist currently. AARO is committed to following the data and its investigation wherever it leads. AARO, working with the Office of the General Counsel and the Air Force Office of Special Investigations, has established a safe and secure process for individuals to come forward with information to aid AARO in its congressionally mandated historical review. AARO's historical review of records and testimonies is ongoing and due to Congress by June 2024, and AARO welcomes the opportunity.
Yeah, this guy can go tell AARO everything that he knows. Or did he claim that he already did that, right? He's given his information to members of Congress, but nobody's allowed to see it.
Opportunity to speak.
Including the people selling the story. Wouldn't you, as a journalist, say, well, I'm not going to sell this story until you show me the proof? No, they didn't see any proof. They just heard this guy telling stories. And by the way, for all I know, this guy truly believes what he's saying. He appears to be very convinced, but many people have been convinced by some of these UFO circle jerkers, including, Gary Nolan, Stanford University professor, and many other people that you would never suspect of being totally believers of this stuff are total believers in this stuff. Doesn't mean it's true. It means somebody told him a lot of stories that he believes.
With a former or current employee or contractor who believes they have information relevant to this historical review. And Elizabeth, we know that David Grush, he's filed that whistleblower complaint. He's been on the record under oath testifying to many of these things that he said in our report tonight.
Right, and it's
and I'd like confirmation that he testified before any member of Congress under oath. We don't have that confirmation yet. So we're going to get out of that, and we're going to get into quickly the red flags of the story. I don't want to keep the guests that we have here waiting. But there are an incredible amount of red flags of this story. And we're going to go through the red flags quickly here. I want to try to keep it brief tonight because I'm sure more information is going to break about this. And right now, we're all operating in a vacuum. But I did notice 10 red flags. And actually, I noticed more, but I ran out the clock trying to make a presentation for tonight. So please forgive me. Red flag number one is that the people selling this story have all been caught selling provably fake stories before. Leslie Kean, Ralph Blumenthal completely got the ATIP story wrong, completely got the whole thing wrong. They trusted the stories that they were told as true from Lou Elizondo. Turns out much of what he told them, he was the primary source for that New York Times article, turned out to be factually completely incorrect. They also sold that story about Harry Reid confirming this stuff. Then they had to walk that story back. So, and Ross Coulthart provably sold the story of the British Parliament all being involved in a ring of children predators, essentially, right? That story turned out to be completely and totally fake. Then Ross Coulthart comes into the UFO community with his huge bluff that they had conclusive proof of alien technology confirmed by Michio Kaku. Go ask Michio Kaku if he confirmed alien technology. And when he's done laughing, right, he'll tell you he didn't confirm anything and he wasn't even shown evidence by Ross Coulthart. But you see, these people, they carefully craft narratives. They put together illusions of true stories. So the people selling this story, and this is a verifiable fact, so I'm not going to argue with people, but the people that are selling this current big story have all been caught selling provably fake stories before. Red flag number two. These are secondhand accounts from someone who was never directly involved in any of these so-called top secret programs. These are just stories that people told him. Now, he says he has evidence. He says he has documents. Nobody's allowed to see them. That's another red flag, if you ask me. Red flag number three, according to Brian Bender, this man was, quote, groomed, unquote, by Lou Elizondo. And it was Lou Elizondo who misled reporters for years about a fake UFO program that was never funded, never official, and never secret, since that program never actually existed. Elizondo had to admit it wasn't a program, it was an activity he did in his spare time. It wasn't his primary job. He wasn't the director of anything. He was the director of a program in his own imagination. And this man, who has been lying to us for years, lied to us with TTSA, lied to us about ATIP, lied to us about the Felon 5, lied to us about more and more and more, I think he lied about being a remote viewer and having superpowers. Oh, and that gets into a whole thing too. Remember that the lies are ridiculous. They get more and more ridiculous as time goes on. And there is a video making the rounds right now, which I think is incredibly interesting. It's a video of Tom DeLonge talking about war stories that apparently he was told by liar Lou Elizondo. And this is very problematic because this is 100% provably fake story. It can't be true. But let's take a listen at Tom DeLonge repeating lies that allegedly or apparently he was told by Lou Elizondo.
A special forces operative, like a soldier. You know, he fought the Taliban in Afghanistan like a month after 9/11 with Secretary of Defense Mattis, General Mattis, Mad Dog Mattis. Yeah. Mattis saved his life. Lou got pinned down in a huge machine gun fight.
None of this is true.
And he called for air
bullshit.
support, and they said there's nothing in the area. And he said, I looked at my friend, and I said, we are going to die. We're dead. There's like 100 of them shooting, and they're pinned behind a rock. Then he heard something on the radio, and Mattis comes flying in on like one of those Bradley vehicles, saying, and big door flies down. He's, oh, get in, boys. He's in a t-shirt. He's, I'm busy. I'll get to you in a second. He's on the automatic grenade launcher, just wiping people out. You know, and Lou said he's on the ground just looking up at this guy in the sunset kind of thing. Like, who the fuck is this guy? You know, and he saved his life, you know. So Lou came from like really being in war to moving up to a place where he had a lot of responsibility with a lot of very sensitive things. And
And by the way, friends, none of that is true. That entire story is completely and totally fake and made up. And I can prove it. There's a timeline of when Lou Elizondo was in the Army. There's a timeline, there's a timeline as well. The timelines don't match up. That story couldn't have happened. And just so everybody's aware, multi-star generals don't operate machine guns from, tanks or anything. They don't do that. They're in the offices directing their Army officers. This is a totally made up story. Did Lou Elizondo tell him that? What about Lou Elizondo telling people that he has remote viewing superpowers and then refusing to comment on whether he was using remote viewing, right? And what about that story that he saved his whole crew from getting murdered, right, by terrorists because he remote viewed the battlefield? All lies. And that liar, Lou Elizondo, is backing this story, right? But let's get back to the red flags. 1 second here. Let's get back to the red flags of this story. All right, so we've gotten that one, red flag number 3. Red flag number 4. According to Brian Bender, multiple media outlets passed on the story, including Politico and several others. According to Ross Coulthart, multiple media outlets, including the New York Times, Politico, and others, refused to run the story. He claimed they didn't have the backbone. They didn't have the courage to run the story. Or maybe these more credible, larger media organizations wouldn't touch this story with a 10-foot pole because they knew that the people selling the story have all been caught selling fake stories before. Red flag number 5. The Defense Office of Pre-Publication and Security Review approved this man to release this information. This means that there is no classified information in his story, despite his claims. Now, I could be wrong about this, but I checked in with an intelligence friend who's worked in intelligence. He's retired now. He worked in Navy intelligence his whole life, and he told me that the Defense Office of Pre-Publication and Security Review would never approve this guy to go and do interviews and talk about any of this if those were real classified programs that actually existed, because even the existence of those classified programs is classified. You see the problem here? The Defense Office of Pre-Publication and Security Review is there to prevent anybody from leaking any classified information. Why would they let him talk about this if this was true and there was real top secret or classified programs in the United States government involving this? And then, of course, we get the Pentagon denial. Big red flag here. And why don't the people selling this story explain this red flag, this huge problem with the story? They won't do it. Red flag number 6. This appears to be a coordinated effort. All the people selling this man's story are working together to release it together. Ross Coulthart interviewed this man in early May. Why did he wait a month to drop it? And why did this all happen in one day? You mean to tell me that Ross Coulthart has this true story, the story of a lifetime, right? This huge bombshell story, and he waits a full month and he lets himself get scooped by essentially a blog on the web, on the internet, the Debrief. No offense to the Debrief. I know they got a lot of people working for them, but it's still just essentially a blog site. This doesn't not make any sense. It's also interesting that this story appears to be coordinated with Christopher Mellon's op-ed piece last week. And a lot of people are also saying that this appears to be a coordinated effort to throw Stephen Greer's so-called whistleblowers, to take up all the oxygen in the room and destroy his event that's happening in a few days. I think Greer's whistleblowers are faker than this guy, though. And we proved that here. At least a few of them are completely and totally fake. They're not real. They're not real whistleblowers. This guy, I don't know. Well, it remains to be seen. But the fact that they are all coordinating together, and then, of course, we've got Lou Elizondo and Christopher Mellon pumping the story to their huge social media followings. It's all coordinated, all to happen on the same day. That is not a coincidence, friends. And why do only those three get access to this guy? And also, this guy also went to Star Trek conventions to meet Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp. And allegedly or apparently, this is rumors and speculation, he tried to get them to tell his story and they weren't interested. If Corbell and George Knapp don't want to sell this story, what is going on with this story? Something must be made. Those guys are out there selling flares as real UFOs. They didn't want this story, allegedly. Something's a real problem. Red flag number 7, conflicting stories about why major media would not cover this story. These three say completely different things about that. And here's where it gets interesting. Leslie Kean and Ralph Blumenthal both copied and pasted the exact same tweet on this issue, claiming the Washington Post did not pass on the story. Ross Coulthard says that everybody did pass on the story and nobody had the backbone to run the story except for the debrief and him, right? Why is there conflicting stories about why people wouldn't want this story? These three people can't get their story straight. I guess they forgot to send Leslie Kean and Ralph Blumenthal, who both copied and pasted the same tweet today, must have forgot to copy and paste that tweet to Ross Coulthard, right? So they're working together, but they're doing a terrible job. All right, number 8. This man claims he has documents and proof. No one, including those selling this story, can see that proof because it's classified. If that were true, he would not have been cleared to talk about any of this publicly. The OPSR reviews are done to ensure that no classified information is spilled. And again, if those programs are real programs, even the existence of them cannot be talked about publicly. They would not have cleared him. But let's not let a little thing like the real way that the intelligence world works get in the way of a good story you can sell. And the people selling this story did not address this obvious elephant in the room. There's a real problem here. Red flag number 9. The people who are selling this story could have gotten on the record comments from the Pentagon before running it. They chose not to. Why? They could have gotten comments from the Inspector General's office. They did not do so. Why not? Well, we did get comments from the Inspector General's office calling his complaint credible and urgent. But does that mean because his information is so good? No. We're going to find out later that all of this so-called data was carefully massaged to sell this story. That's what we're going to find out. It's all going to start falling apart. That's my opinion, and I'm entitled to it. Where are the documents that this man claimed that he has? And why can nobody see them? Even the people selling the story with him aren't allowed to see the documents? Come on. That's a huge red flag. The fact that he claims he has documents, but nobody's allowed to see them. So this is trust me, dude, right? A bunch of people told me some stories, and I got some documents, but you can't see them. Trust me, dude. And red flag number 10. This story is being hyped and promoted by the same people who brought us the TTSA techno-scam and the fake Pentagon UFO program. I find that incredibly suspicious that the same people who duped everybody before, including essentially duping people out of investor money. Remember Lou Elizondo, Tom DeLonge, Christopher Mellon, they were going to build a spaceship with a revolutionary power source that would change the world. They collected millions of dollars and they did nothing, right? But don't worry, Lou Elizondo got a book deal out of it, and he got a TV show deal out of those taxpayer-funded videos that are nothing burgers. It took years to determine they're nothing burgers, those 3 videos, right? This is extremely, extremely problematic. And I have just a few more things to share. And here's more red flags. Eric Davis is behind this, partially. Gary Nolan and I have been working together since 2009, and what he told the reporter is 100% accurate. Much of what he said is partly based on my work over 25 years and the more recent work of my now former special security officer who works in Colorado Springs. This man from this so-called bombshell story is a real estate agent in Colorado Springs. And he's the U.S. government whistleblower who remains unknown, but will become known in a soon-to-be published expose in the Washington Post. And we have to be very careful here because, I have this too. This is pretty funny. Even Uri Geller, Uri Geller is critical of this story, right? How bad is it when Uri Geller is critical of this story? Uri Geller says, "My dear friends, there is something that is not right here. I need to investigate with my fellow contacts." Stephen Greenstreet says, "I really thought this UFO stuff might be BS. I really did. But now that Lou Elizondo's friend has told Leslie Keene and Ross Coulthart that aliens are real, I feel like there might be actually something to it." And here we have Brian Bender. He is a close ally of Elizondo, which is important context, I think. In fact, I would even say Lou groomed him a bit for several years now. They've been grooming this guy for several years to tell this story. Isn't that a little suspicious? The same people, right? The same people who sold us the garbage story from before about everything that was fake. And here's corrections about the remarks attributed to Harry Reid, proving that Leslie Keene and Ralph Blumenthal have provably sold 100% fake stories. That was a big story. Oh, Harry Reid said that there are crashes of objects of unknown origin may have been recurred and that retrieved materials should be studied. He did not say that crashes had occurred and that retrieved materials had been studied secretly for decades. Yeah, so the story was fake. And of course, we have the Pentagon response: no aliens. We have not discovered any verifiable information to substantiate claims that any programs regarding the possession of reverse engineering or extraterrestrial materials have existed in the past or exist currently. Yeah. So what are we left with? We're left with a lot of red flags and not much meat on the bones. But I do have some very special guests joining us, and I think they're here. So we are going to open things up. But before we do that, let me just take a moment to check in with the live chat. I hate it when I forget to do that. So my apologies. We have a great crowd here tonight. Many, many people showing up to hear, I think, the more skeptical side, the more grounded side. And what I would say is that cautious optimism is probably best in this case. I've got even true believer friends that believe all this stuff calling me today and saying, there's real problems with this story, isn't there, Stephen? Yeah, there are some real problems here with this story. And boy, we want to, cover this the best that we can. The problem is that there's an absence of information here. There's a real absence of information. Where's the documents? Where's the proof? What are the names of the people who told him these stories? It sounds to me like Eric Davis is one of the people telling him stories. And no offense, but Eric Davis is about as credible as a crackhead. You know, the same guy who wrote studies about interdimensional wormholes, and he has pictures of Einstein talking to Barney the dinosaur in his scholarly papers. That's the guy telling him about alien crash retrievals, maybe. And see, here's the problem. We don't know. We don't know who's telling this guy about alien crash retrievals. We just don't know. So I would urge extreme caution before anybody believes anything that this man says. Daniel was asked to write for the debrief. Well, they pay worth of shit, I hear, but eventually passed on it after looking more into it. No, it's the UFO circle jerk crowd that works for them. You know, Chrissy Newton, she's the one that does the public relations when these guys get caught lying to everybody. She has them on her show to kind of help, smooth it over and explain away how they got caught completely lying to everybody and profiting from completely fake stories. Yeah. Chrissy Newton works for the debrief too, as well as an awful lot of other people that I find less than credible. And, it's a shame. I once did find him credible, not anymore. So we have Jess, Go Kick Rocks, and we have Paranormal Chris here with us. We're going to bring them right in, and we're going to get into this. Let's welcome our guests here. Jess, are you there?
Hey, what's up, you guys? I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we're going to bring Paranormal
here.
Chris in here with you as well. We have quite the, and I think that we have John William Warner joining us. At least he said he would. Let me make sure that he knows it's East Coast time. But while I do that, why don't you begin, Jess? Because you've been tweeting all day, and I've been watching. What do you think of this whole thing? Break it down for us a little bit.
My God, I could talk to you for 3 days about this story. I've heard about it for a while, a couple of weeks now, or, at least a week and a half since it broke. And everybody was trying to keep it on the down low and don't talk about it because, past stories have been ruined. I think one of the
but
New
they've
York
been hyping
Times
this for
articles.
months, right?
Yeah.
They've been hyping this story for months, and it was supposed to be a big Washington Post article.
Yeah, so the Washington Post, I guess they dropped it. The New York Times dropped it as well.
Politico dropped it as well, according to Brian Bender.
Coulthart comes out, and he was pretty aggravated in his video, and he was showing that. And then a couple of hours later, you hear Leslie Kean and Ralph Blumenthal come up and say, "Oh, nobody passed on it. It was a time crunch. People rushing us." Well, who was rushing them? That's a big question. Who was rushing them to get this out? Why was it rushed
I think
to
it
get
was
out?
Elizondo and Mellon. And a lot of people are saying that they did this on purpose right now to bust Stephen Greer's balls with his fake whistleblower stories, right?
I mean, but what does it matter? Has anything else happened? Is something else supposed to happen? Like, did it coincide with something that was supposed to drop? What was the reason for that big rush? I think
they
that's
didn't
a
have
whole bunch
time
of
to
BS.
let a real media outlet vet the guy and vet his stories. This is really problematic, and I'm left thinking that for such an explosive story, for a real media outlet to just say no thanks, we'll pass. They know something that we don't know yet, Jess. These media outlets, they know something.
Okay, so I mean, that was the first thing. That was the first big red flag. And usually, like, we've heard that happen before, and people have hyped stuff up, and it's been a big letdown. So I was thinking, okay, well, maybe that's it. It's not that big explosive thing that people are going to want to hear. So then I hear this guy come out, and the biggest thing that I see is the guy's 36 years old, right?
And how's he at the top of the intelligence food chain at 36? That
allegedly the highest intel officer that has come forward yet. He's 36 years old, and we know for a fact he put this out at least a year ago. He's been talking to these people for a year. He's been talking to Coulthart for a year. He met with several people. He was like in the desert at a UFO conference last year with Knapp and Greer, or Knapp and Corbell a year ago.
Star Trek conventions telling people this story. Yeah.
35 years old. Okay. So, and then now, not only that, he's retired at the ripe old age of 36, and now he's a real estate agent, right?
It's problematic. It just has CIA written all over it,
flag.
if you ask me. Okay, we'll get Chris. We'll get Paranormal Chris. But before we do that, we want to thank Zizix. I see in the movie that Tomorrow More. What did the grifters say about it? I'm not sure, Zizix, but thanks for being a member, and thanks for your kindness, generosity, and support. And Paranormal Chris, thank you for joining us. I didn't want to do this myself because I felt like I would be like the negative Nelly by myself. What do you think of this entire thing, Paranormal Chris?
So
give us the breakdown.
All right. Well, first, I mean, if Jess is correct, if he's supposedly retired at 36, I don't know how that's possible unless he's medically retired. That would mean that he joined the military at 16 years old and that he would have served 20 years real quick consecutively throughout, between government and military. So I don't know how he'd be retired at 36 and getting a pension. Another thing, the whole time you've been talking, I've been trying to look him up on
good luck
his real estate thing, and you can't find any.
All gone. They wiped him.
They did. There are
the real estate office he works for wiped him from the internet today.
Well, you guys have also heard the rumor that his name is actually something else. It's like Jonathan something.
I've heard that rumor, but I can't confirm that.
Yeah, but I looked into his background. Background also. I can't find him anywhere.
That's an obvious attempt. If he's using a fake name, that's an obvious attempt to stop people from vetting him.
Yep, that's exactly what it is. And I'm going to tell you, with what I found out about Lou Elizondo over the past 24 hours, I spent 4 hours on a Zoom like conference call last night, and it would not. I wouldn't put it past him that there's something a little bit sketchy with his background as well.
Yeah, and you and I might be talking to some of the same sources, Paranormal Chris, because I have been saying that more and more stuff is going to come out that is going to completely discredit Elizondo. And there is rumblings right now that there is some. Let's just say that there may be some recordings of Lou Elizondo saying some pretty wacky stuff, and it's going to be coming out shortly.
Yeah, I've seen some stuff about his military background that says it doesn't like coincide with the dates that General Mattis was in Afghanistan.
He was in battles with General Mattis, and General Mattis was shooting machine guns and saving them from the enemy, and
And Jonathan Gray, that's the name that's been floating around that this guy allegedly is, but I haven't found anything on Jonathan Gray or David Gersh, so he's been completely wiped.
Yeah, and why would the real estate office he worked at wipe him on the same day this article comes out, unless he requested that?
Well, that's the thing.
This looks like a psyop to me. It's crazy. I know it's conspiratorial to think that, but like none of this makes any sense.
It doesn't, because you can actually, like, when you search him on the Colorado real estate, you see his name pop up several places, but you cannot find a picture of him at all.
Yeah. When you go to the website, it's like wiped, or it's,
Yeah, I had to click on it a couple of times because I thought maybe something was malfunctioning. Maybe I don't know, service or something. And you can't find anything about him. So maybe Jess is right. Maybe, I don't know why they would do that, because they put his entire credentials out there. So if we're going to try to confirm that those credentials are correct, we need the correct name. I mean, they said that he worked for the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. He was the co-lead for UAP analysis. National Reconnaissance Office. He worked for the UAPTF, which is Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Task Force. So he supposedly has all these credentials. It just is kind of weird that the one thing that kind of makes him like a normal guy, which is this real estate thing, you can't find it. But you can see his name everywhere. You just can't find a damn picture. It's weird.
I mean, so if we're going to talk about NASIC, we can go into NASIC. And, there's a lot of people right now that have ties into NASIC. Jay Stratton is one of them. He worked for NASIC.
Can you define that for our audience, just so everybody's clear?
Go ahead, Chris. The National...
Oh, I don't know, actually. I'm just going to be
aeronautical, spatial, whatever.
Yeah.
Another alphabet soup agency.
This is another acronym. Yeah, it's another acronym.
Yeah. So Jay Stratton worked for NASIC, and that's one of the big red flags. It's like all of these people tie back to each other. And if you look at what Brian Bender said today, he said that Elizondo essentially groomed this guy for the past couple of years. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but he's heard that from somebody.
Well, the worst thing that Lou Elizondo could have done today was tweet what he did, claiming that he was a coworker of his. So that, to me, he said
that kills the credibility of the guy.
Yeah, I mean, what did he say? Friend and coworker, something like that. Yep. So that, to me, suggests not only did they have a professional relationship, they had a personal friendship as well. So 2 + 2 = 4. He spent some time with Lou, and then you got this guy coming out of nowhere, and his body language. Like, I'm not going to talk trash about a guy that served the country, so I won't do that tonight. But I do think it's a little odd. If you watch that interview, his body language is the one thing that just throws me off out of everything. And it's really odd that, like, when he's talking, he's like, yep. You know what I mean? Like, he's just like, it's just.
He said no kidding at one point.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting. Really? For reals, man. No kidding.
Especially when they asked him about quantities of craft, he had that Rick Doty like grin on his face. I don't know if you've ever seen Rick Doty interviews. They have that telltale grin on their face.
Yeah, and then he's also got that, he's saying that that he, will confirm that we have recovered alien dead bodies, essentially. And I mean, that's an awfully huge claim to make with absolutely no evidence with you, He said, when you encounter crashed craft, you encounter dead pilots.
believe it or not, that's true.
Yeah. Word
Yeah.
for word, it's pretty much what he said. Yep.
And I also wanted to get your reaction to this. Ross Coulthart, he walked back a lot of things already. Like, oh, he didn't say extraterrestrial. Well, what is a non-human intelligence craft? Does that mean it's made by monkeys? Like, I'm confused here. Like, what other species is making flying machines on Earth besides humans then? This doesn't make any sense.
Somebody that's older than us, more ancient than us, maybe.
Oh, it could be the crypto-terrestrials. Maybe.
Could be where he's going with that. I'm not really sure.
I mean, or
But
they could be tying it back to Antarctica.
could be. There's a lot, but here's my deal. Like, and I don't think a lot of people have known this, but you mentioned it earlier about Coulthart's history, as far as not vetting properly before he goes and releases a report or does a report live on TV, which he has done, and had that particular news agency, they gotten a lot of crap for that. Like, a lot. There's not a lot you could find on it, and it's not going to say that Coulthart was fired, like you mentioned earlier. But
but Media Watch called that story gross incompetence and completely fictional story.
Right,
and that's Media Watch. They're pretty like, I think they're pretty level when they report on media matters. I think they're pretty trustworthy.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew somebody that worked with Coulthart very closely last year, and he was getting, and I don't really care if anybody knows this, and I'm saying it. He worked pretty closely with Coulthart, and he would bring stories, and Coulthart said, basically, I'm not making any money off of this. And for a while there was a good 6 months, 9 months or so that Coulthart did nothing but parrot other stories from people that brought them to him. Like, he did absolutely no work. So, I mean, to an extent, it is a money-making place. Yeah, he's parroting stuff. Like, it's a money-making endeavor for him.
I forgot to share this during my presentation, so I just want to go over it real quickly and get you both of your reaction to this, because this pattern of this story, it feels so familiar to me because we've all seen it before. So this is this is from a book I'll probably never finish, but this is a guide to selling fake UFO or alien stories. Number 1, make huge claims and also claim you have lots of evidence. This story fits that mold. Number 2, when asked to see that evidence, make excuses for why you can't show it. This fits that mold. Number 3, claim more evidence is coming when pushing the original story. We've got more whistleblowers. He's not the only one. We've got people corroborating his stories, right? And this fits the mold. Number 4, keep claiming more evidence will be revealed soon. And I think we're going to get that in the next day or two. Number 5, when people demand the evidence, make more excuses. Number 6, after the money runs out, vanish before you provide the promised evidence. Ross Coulthart's last big story, the big bluff of alien technology, we have conclusive proof of alien technology, and he had nothing. When he made all the money he could on that clickbait garbage story, he ran away for a while. Number 7, do the Cosmic Con shuffle. That's when you go away for a little while, hope everybody forget that you got caught selling a completely fake story, and then you repeat from step 1. Start selling a whole new fake story, rinse and repeat using these methods. What do you guys think of this pattern that I think many of these stories follow? Is that an accurate depiction of the pattern that is used to sell these stories?
I mean, that's the basic MO, in my opinion. Like, they all follow the same pattern. Every one of them.
100%. I mean, it's hey, this is what I've seen. I've got proof, but yet I haven't ever seen it because somebody else told me it happened. That has the insight. It all fits within the same realm all the time. It's the same repackaging of the same story. It's
the carrot on the stick.
Yeah.
And essentially, like, the people that I've spoken to, are really, really enthusiastic about the main talking heads, right? They're the people who just like follow them, diehard believers, will believe anything that comes out of their mouths. So just like this story, I heard this exact same story from this guy today from a good 10, 15 people. So there is somebody out there who's repeating the same information on Twitter in the background, telling everybody, hey, don't tell anybody I told you this. And then essentially, you know, it goes how it goes and then the rumor spreads. So there's somebody that's the core of all of this information, and they know how to get it out.
I think we have three guesses of who's behind it. I really think that, you know, this story has been orchestrated, and maybe that being pressured to get the story out, you know, somebody is pulling the strings of all of these people, and somebody is also manipulating people on UFO Twitter. How many of these people have coordinatedly in the past 6 months said there's whistleblowers, they're coming out, we're going to get the crash retrieval truth, it's all coming out, you know, buckle up, which is what everybody tells you before they take you for a ride. You know, I heard a lot of buckle up today. It's a coordinated effort here to promote and sell this story.
I think a lot of these people are dumb, though. I think a lot of these people are just like diehard believers, and they actually 100% believe that what they're getting, this information, the secret information, like it's true. I don't think that they can see through the whole veil.
Yeah, you got to watch the copy and paste people too, like Christopher.
Oh, it's already happening.
Yeah,
people are copying. Go Google his name. All you see is copy and paste stories that they took like 10 quotes from the debrief story and then added a little bit more text. And every one of those sites is like ads, 4 lines of text, ads. It's all clickbait garbage.
Yeah, and
peddlers.
My thing with it too is there's like a correlation. All this stuff is happening within like a matter of days, right? We're getting fed all of this information all at once. You know, you had what was going on with NASA and Arrow, and then all of a sudden there was a debate on whether Go Fast was this or that, and then you know, and that was after the 29 Palms freaking flare hoax. And then apparently Mick West went on Chris Cuomo tonight. I don't know if anybody knows, or news. Whatever that was, Newsweek or Newsmax. Anyway,
I gotta check that out. And that's the other thing. Where is this interview? This man Ross Coulthard claims that he interviewed him for 11 hours. Where is the interview?
I'm not really sure.
Know? It's on Newsmax somewhere.
Yeah,
supposed to be at 6 p.m. Eastern. I'm trying to find it. It's not on their YouTube, but when they pump the story, they're saying join Newsmax. So does this mean that this is behind a paywall?
Ooh.
And if so, that's very suspicious. If they're putting this interview, which is supposed to be groundbreaking, earth-shattering, you know, paradigm-shifting, a huge historical event for mankind, but they're putting it behind a paywall, they're doing that to sell it to UFO buffs.
We got like 5 minutes of the 7 hours that Coulthard spent with him. I think the other people said it was like 11 hours that he was under oath, and Coulthard was with him for 7 hours.
But in Ross Coulthard and that Zybel's story on their YouTube, they said they interviewed him for hours and hours and hours, and that the interview took place May 5th. So why would you wait a full month to release such an important true story? That's all coordinated. They all did it today together.
Well, he allegedly quit or retired or whatever the story is behind his, employment in April. And then the interview, Bryce Zybel said that he met with him in May, which is when I assume that the whole interview took place. And
That's funny, Jess. Does this sound familiar? Lou Elizondo, right out of the gate of the Pentagon, is doing interviews and getting TV show deals. How long till this guy gets a TV show deal, right?
Exactly. And I wonder if it had anything to do with his resignment or retirement or whatever happened. I wonder if they convinced him, hey, I can't talk to you until after you're not employed. So that's another thing to look at. It's a possibility.
I really think this is Lou Elizondo 2.0. And I really think that they thought that they had something with Lou. And the more that you dip into his background, the more you kind of start to see that he's not the guy that they touted him to be per his credentials. So now they give it a new version 2.0 with a guy that has better credentials, and he come out of the woodwork and he's saying basically the same stuff, but this time he didn't bring videos. He came with better credentials, but did not bring videos this time. So what, I really think that they missed their cash cow, and it's just weird that Christopher Mellon puts out the Politico piece, and within days we get something that bounces. It echoes the same thing he talked about in that Politico piece.
Yeah,
it's just
big UFO cover up. Yeah,
there's just, and
This
it's
guy's
all
allegedly
intelligent.
hired. He's higher credentialed than Luis Elizondo, and he has a higher ranking, like in the intelligence community, than Luis Elizondo. Yet Luis Elizondo is the one that's, by per Bryce Zibel's words, grooming him for the past couple of years, and it was couple of years. That's a huge statement. So the guy's 36 years old right now. We don't know who he is, his birthday. We don't know nothing about the guy. So he's been like groomed by Elizondo since he was like, what, 34? If you want to take coupled for it meaning two, like literally, like we don't know.
Yeah, his background is going to be the key here, and I say that because, again, referencing to Lou, because there's the direct correlation. Once you dig into his background, you start to see that things aren't adding up, and I have a feeling, but I don't want to. I don't want to. I don't want to disparage. I don't want to disparage this guy because we know nothing about him. He could be a good guy. I don't know. But I know how we know about Lou and how Lou deals with things and his kind of character behind the scenes. So to me, it just suggests that, man, his background is going to be really important moving forward if we can confirm a couple more details.
Yeah, I agree. But I have a feeling that little details of this story are going to be proven to be inaccurate in the coming days, because those IG complaints, the comments that the IG made, apparently or allegedly made, that his complaint was urgent and credible. It's like this whole story seems manipulated. Like the IG might have said that his complaints to the IG were urgent and credible, but they're almost making it, like saying that his information is urgent and credible. And that's two totally different things.
I don't know if you're looking in the comment section. I have to talk about this. Vancouver guy says, I wonder if when Lou claimed to be consulting with Space Force, which I have confirmed that he's at least not in the directory for Space Force. An officer, I have a connection in the Space Force from when I was in the Air Force. He confirmed that there is no Luis Elizondo in the Space Force directory. But anyways, he says that claimed to be consulting with Space Force. This is what he was talking about. Go down a little bit about grooming David. Maybe this is who Lou's connection was in consulting with Space Force.
It could be. Yeah, that's a very good possibility. But I don't know. I'm kind of like, I wish I could just take 2 weeks off of this, because I'm telling you that in 2 weeks, we're going to find out how massaged and manipulated this entire story was within 2 weeks. We're going to find out.
Why did they rush it? Like, I still don't know. Has that come out? Like, why? And they both had the same copy and paste response, but why was it rushed? Why was it rushed? What's the hurry?
No, that's never come out. And I've asked several people who have told me even before the story dropped why it was rushed, and nobody knows why.
Yeah, and why is McMillan from the debrief saying that the Washington Post did not pass on the story when Brian Bender and Ross Coulthart are essentially both saying that everybody passed on the story? That's problematic. Why would? And like I said, there's a reason. If this is a really big, real, explosive story, any media outlet would love to have it, especially exclusively. Why did they all pass on it? Or did they want to do more vetting and they didn't want to stop them let them do that?
I think that's what happened. I think the Washington Post was probably still trying to vet things. And there was some suggestions on Twitter today that it is possible that they might have had some issues with stories not lining up correctly, and they were looking
Exactly.
into it deeper. And instead of just waiting that out, they rushed it over to McMillan. And I got to say this, I haven't been on here very long, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but there's been 2 times that McMillan has stated things that have not been true. And I've proven that not to be true.
There's multiple times.
Only 2?
Well,
there's a lot more than 2.
Well, I've only been on here for a short amount of time, but
Sure.
like with James Fox's post about the C-17 plane, where was it originated from? Well, I wanted to be anonymous, and I have the messages to prove it, but I can't really say it now because there's too many messages I've got on Twitter or threads that shows that I actually interacted with McMillan, proving he was trying to prove what I was saying wrong, and turns out he was wrong. Like I literally figured out where the C-17 was from, and James Fox posted that out there. And then, so that was the first occurrence. And and McMillan's response was, you know what, I'm not really more interested in this conversation anymore. And so basically he just moved along from it. That was his response. I'm like, well, you definitely wanted to prove me wrong in the beginning. Now we're really hashing this thing out, and I'm proving over and over and over, like I'm backing everything up that I say. And then you're just like, well, I think I'm going to see this one out. I'm not really that much invested in it anyways. And I'm like, okay, just say
after you lost the argument because you're wrong.
Just say you're wrong. And then
he took his marbles and he went home, Paranormal.
Right.
Chris, and we thank Gunslinger for a kind and generous $6.99 Canadian, who says, the witness said they approached me. They confided in me. Yeah, no ship. Who are they and why him? Why did they need that guy? Exactly. And thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support, and helping us to praise the cash. Yeah, why this guy? He does appear to be very credentialed, but I'm going to be real surprised if all those credentials all stand up to scrutiny. And the thing with the name, and by the way, Thomas, one of our viewers, did send me a photo of Dave Grush as an agent in Colorado Springs for a house that's for sale. The name David Grush is listed as the agent. But again, you're right. I'm still searching here, and you don't find pictures of him on any realtor website as an agent, which is bizarre. It's absolutely bizarre.
That's one of the main things you see with real estate agents. They do their nice little shots, you know what I mean? Their pictures, and they put it on everything, and you cannot find that anywhere, which is interesting.
Well, something I noted is he said when he was asked, how many craft do we have? He said, quite a few. But then you hear Colthart saying this guy has never seen a craft, touched a craft. It's only what he's been told. So how is he given a definitive number, quite a few, or even, talking about that if he's never seen anything?
Yeah, well, I guess he didn't see any of the bodies he claimed we have either. So this guy, essentially, the whole story boils down to some people told me this.
Yep.
That's what this whole story boils down to.
Smells like Bob Lazar 2.0 to me. I'm just
exactly.
It's a mix of Lazar and Elizondo stories. Yeah.
Right, because when Bob Lazar came out, like everybody said he was a physicist. He had all these credentials. This guy knows. He is in the know. And then all of a sudden, 2-3 decades later, we find out, well, not really.
Yeah, convicted pimp, fake scientist. Yeah,
right. And the best evidence he ever gave was he drew pictures. Right.
That goes into something else. That I've heard like for a while now. The guy is allegedly coming forward because he has been threatened. He's been harassed. He allegedly has his life on, he's been on a hit list. People are trying to kill him. From Defense Department contractors are allegedly putting a hit on this guy. From what I've heard, I can't verify any of this. I can verify from a couple of people that he said that, I've been harassed or I've been threatened, but some other people have said that, he's on a hit list.
Those IG complaints are going to come out. They're going to,
sounds like
documents are going to be public.
Sounds like Bob Lazar. Did Bob Lazar claim the same things?
And who broke Bob Lazar's story? Knapp and Corbell. So why didn't Knapp and Corbell cover his story? I mean, they were talking to him last year, like in the fall of last year. Why does it take like almost 6 or a half a year later for Coldheart to come out with his story?
I tell you
Like,
what,
what's the deal with that? That's a little weird.
Corbell and Knapp are probably, they need to be a little careful. I don't know if you guys saw what was going on with what Greenwald posted about the FOIA request for, what was it, the muzzle orb, and about the active law enforcement investigations going on. They've got to be careful, because
you're not allowed to just distribute classified information.
No, and Jack,
and I've been saying that forever. When they say they have classified information, it doesn't make sense. They go, this is from a classified video, but we have a still and it's not classified. Well,
Corbell came out last year and said that he was worried about it.
Video, this doesn't make sense. You know?
Yeah, you definitely should just pay attention. I tell people all the time, I'm like, just Google Jack Teixeira and just tell me if you still think it's a good idea to go leak classified material. It's not a good idea. Matter of fact,
Paranormal Chris, you might not have been here for it, but when the original UFO report came out, there were people in the UFO community claiming they had the classified version and they were going to do YouTube shows on it. And I jumped right online and started yelling and screaming like you guys are all liars. If you had anything classified, the feds would be at your door. You do not have classified information. You can't lie to people like that. Right. And they all backed off. And then they start making excuses. Well, I didn't have, documents. I had notes from somebody that read the classified report. And then everything that they said was in the classified report wasn't, because that came out later, redacted slightly, but it all came out later. And those people were all lying about having classified information. And that's the game that these people play. Oh, I'm in the know. I'm getting classified information. No, you're not. Or you'd be under investigation. And now you're right. The Corbell and Knapp may have some problems because they're going to have to explain where they got that information from.
It really is.
Corbell has said several times. Corbell said several times in the past 6 months that he's trying to get information out without getting into trouble. And I mean, from what I've heard and from what I've deduced from other things that I've heard, there was an investigation on the 2019 stuff that he leaked, and you see all the stuff that's coming from the DOD. You see the comments that's coming from Gillibrand about, hey, we're not commenting on ongoing classified investigations and stuff that's come from classified, presentations or whatever. So, I mean, I'm just saying, one of these days, the DOD, they're going to be fed up and they are going to make an example out of somebody
100%,
eventually.
100%. I mean, they already did it with Jack Teixeira, and let me tell you, now is like the worst time ever to be trying to do this. And people, they know me on Twitter enough to, in spaces, I discourage this big time. People are like, well, I wish I had these videos. I'd leak them right out. And I'm like, just go ahead and just step in line for the watch list by saying you would be willing to leak classified information. Our matters of national security is a thing, and people need to be careful about what they say and what they want to do with classified material. It's not a joking matter after Jack Teixeira.
Yeah, somebody once claimed to me that they were going to send me something that was classified, and I no, you're not. Yeah. No, you are not. And I'm a computer science guy, so like I know all about encryption. And they were like, "Oh, we'll use this encrypted." But no, I don't want feds knocking at my door. It's not worth it to me if it's not public information. Too, it's hard to verify. How would you verify if somebody just gave you a document and they said this is classified? How would you verify it was real without getting in trouble? You can't. So, there does appear to be this whole, what do you think of this whole excuse for why he's claiming that he has all these documents, but he can't show them to us because they're classified, but the DOD approved him to talk about all of this, which makes no sense whatsoever. Because if these programs that he's claiming he's aware of were real classified programs, even discussing them, the existence of them would be a problem. They wouldn't have approved him to talk about this stuff if these were real classified programs, because even the existence of them is classified, especially USAPs. That's unacknowledged for a reason,
Right. Well, I mean, so I believe that those documents that he says he has, that he's already forwarded on to, I guess, the proper channels in DoD. But I'm seriously, I don't know, man. It's kind of a red flag. It just seems like it's another smoking gun because, if it, for one, I don't know, this guy's 36 years old, and that is his military service, his service with the government. There's red flags here. Like, if he's retired, like I'm telling you, a lot's going to have to do with the background. And on top of that, unless this guy just straight up comes forward and says, look, it's this program, it's located here, the craft is in this hangar on this part of the base or this part of the facility, like here's the documents, here's the pictures. Our community is getting to a point where the bar of evidence is getting set really low, and people are getting excited over things that people are just talking about. And it's been that way for decades. And that's kind of the problem. Now everybody's been talking about, well, this is it. This is disclosure. I'm like, no, this is a guy that's just coming out and saying, hey, I know about some stuff that a guy told me. That's all.
So
That's all it's about.
Yeah.
I mean, I can tell you something else that I noted that's a huge red flag is Colt Hart specifically said a couple of times, you guys contact your congressional representatives. They're not listening to us. So this guy has gone through the DOD IG and the IC DO, the IC intelligence IG, whatever. And he said, hey, this is what's happening. He's credible. He's sent his story off and nobody's listening to them. So Cold Heart saying, hey, you guys contact your congressional representatives and help get the story out. That should not be happening if this were an actual story and this was actually going on. You should not have to contact your representatives if this is legitimate.
I want to point something else out. Especially with the Politico piece. I feel like the last couple of days, the stuff that's come out, I feel like it's trying to overstep Arrow. Like I feel like they're like subtly kind of hitting Arrow below the belt. I think there's really harsh feelings with Sean Kirkpatrick and people in the field or in the UFO community, and I really think that this may be a way that if they do this, they think that they can overstep the chain of command and try to get this thing up the channel that way because they feel like, maybe this guy's already gone to Arrow. And
not one time was Arrow mentioned. The Inspector General of the Intel community and the Inspector General of the DoD was mentioned, but never one time was Arrow mentioned at all. Kirkpatrick was not mentioned, not one time.
Which is interesting.
And also, we also have to remember that these people pushed, right, for years. They want some real scientists in the government to take this thing seriously. And then the government wastes taxpayer dollars chasing their own tail, chasing shadows and phantoms. They don't find anything anywhere near approaching, it's aliens. And they say that, and then everybody gets pissed off because the real credible scientists that you wanted to actually work on this issue looked into it and they didn't find what you wanted them to. So now they want to hit the guy, right? And yeah, I saw people are playing that clip of Kirkpatrick saying we don't have credible evidence of alien technology. And they're going, see, he lied to everybody. Well, that hasn't been established yet. And everything here becomes this murky, mess and muddy. The waters are so muddied now. Who's telling the truth? Who's lying? And here we have another intelligence asset being thrust into the spotlight of the UFO community yet again. How many do we have now? It's almost like everybody that is in the UFO community that is one of these big talking heads is former intelligence or current intelligence. We've got Lou Elizondo, Christopher Mellon. We've got the DIA girl, Anjali. She specialized in information warfare. We've got Richard Doty. We've got Eric Davis, Hal Puthoff, and they're all heavily CIA tied. It's crazy. And now here comes this guy who's even higher classification of an intelligence officer. And at only 36, there's real problems here. And if they did conceal his name, that's a huge red flag. If they gave him a different name on purpose, that's a huge red flag.
Yeah.
Because why can't I find? I'm going to call some real estate agent. There's got to be a Colorado real estate agent organization.
There has to be a reason why we can't
find me this guy and find me like a website that he was a real estate agent on. Why can't we find that now?
If I'm not mistaken, did Greenstreet not say that he talked to him and about that he
said
he was a real estate agent?
He did say that today. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I'm sure people have been trying to contact him, but there is I mean, you're right, Jess. If that would be a huge, it would be a gut punch to the whole story if they actually used a different name, because then that is trying to conceal his background. Yeah, and conceal his background so other people can't look into it and try to verify it for themselves. Because no offense, I'm not going to go off McMillan's word. I'm not going to do it. So you know what I mean? Like, I don't think that's what they did. Surely that's his real name. But if they did do that, man, that just destroys the
It's still suspicious that I'm telling you, I'll get his name while we're talking, and I will Google and I will show you some of the sites where it's like that page has been removed. The page that listed him as an agent has been removed. Why?
Look, Jonathan Gray, Grey, and David Grush, and I've misspelled his name a couple times today because, oh my God, if you're going to use a fake name, why would you use Grusch that nobody can spell? I mean, really. That'd be probably the perfect fake name to use, actually. But there was something else I wanted to note. The NDAA procedures 2023. I mean, you cannot be a whistleblower and not follow these procedures and still get protection, which does not cover, it specifically says it does not cover going to the media. So you cannot take this stuff to the media and be covered.
Yeah, you don't have protection for that. You only have protection to testify in closed door Senate hearings.
Closed door, Senate meetings behind, with the people who have clearances. You cannot come out and blow the biggest cover of the United States to the media and be covered under quote unquote whistleblower protection. I mean, that's the biggest red flag of all. Like, how are these people like alleging this? And how is Jeremy Corbell telling this? Oh, this is, I'm a journalist, which, I mean, if you look at journalist definition, like, I mean, would Jeremy Corbell even be covered under the journalist protections?
No, probably not.
I mean, people have been saying that he's been leaking classified, pictures and this and that. Like, the only person who could do that is like if you're working, for the government, right?
Your company, you can get away with it, right?
I don't think that Jeremy Corbell could get away with it unless he's working for somebody who is allowing this stuff. Like, I mean, people need to actually like take a look and see, the stuff that he's putting out there. If I would have put stuff out there that Jeremy Corbell did, I'd have FBI agents and like everybody else lined up at my door to take me in. Like, how is he getting away with half the stuff that he's publishing?
Vancouver guys over here talking about, and that's Jeff, by the way, the Division of Space Force and stuff. The guy worked for was the Test and Experimental Division. Come on. They oversaw operation of the X-37B orbital test vehicle, for example. I mean,
and that's the secret space program,
right?
Essentially.
So, is this guy? I don't know. Is he? It's just something's not right. Obviously, there's kind of a red flag that's going on that I can't get past it. And I'm sure, like I said, I don't know if this guy's a good guy. I don't. He's a veteran, so I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, right? But I think that maybe he might be. At the very least, he's got to be careful because he's about to throw his whole career away if the fact that this doesn't pan out.
But he's retired, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, and I want to take a moment just to show everybody that something is weird with his real estate background, because if we Google his name and real estate Colorado Springs, we get a listing for him at exprealty.com, right? But when we go there, and then this is in reverse alphabetical order by first name. So David would be on page 2, and I've already done this, but I'm going to show you. It's like, and I found multiple examples of this. It's like he's been sanitized from this. There's no picture of him, right?
There's one page that
it's just gone. He's just missing from this page, which means that he was on this. We'll try way back. He was on this at one time. Why is he no longer on this? You know, that's very suspicious. Like, he's a real estate agent, and it just so happens that on the day this article comes out, all of his pictures and any reference to him being a real estate agent, Wayback Machine
said he had access to 2,000 special access programs. That's a huge number. Just keep that in mind. If you look back at Christopher Mellon said he did a comprehensive special access program deep dive when he was, in charge. He did that, and he still did not report on ALSAP or on any of the other UFO programs.
Yeah.
But this guy at the ripe old age of, when was that? 34, 35? We don't even know his background yet. So, and he had a more inclusive comprehension of what was going on within the government than Christopher Mellon. There's something up with that.
Yeah, and I was gonna show everybody another example of him being sanitized from the internet today. And here we go. So if we just Google him, he's got a listing as a real estate agent at realtor.com.
Mm-hmm.
David Garush, Englewood, Colorado, real estate agent, right? And then when we click on it, it appears we came up empty and couldn't find what you were looking for. Why is his real estate agent pages getting sanitized from the internet? As of today, I think I'm going to do some more research on this very issue, because something's not right. Something is not right with this. And if they did use a fake name, they would want to purge those, right? If they give him a fake identity, even like, okay, he's a real estate agent now, he left the government, and then we get rid of any listing of that agent, or something is weird here.
So if I'm assuming he probably doesn't have a clearance anymore, I would assume. I mean, especially after doing this, I doubt he'll ever be able to get one. Which is funny because Elizondo, that's another thing, that his clearance is questionable, because there's actually documentation that at one point he filed for bankruptcy in 2010. And anybody that knows anything about TSSI or TSI clearances and stuff like that, your financial background plays a massive part in that, and because they don't want.
Yeah, because you could be a danger to being bribed by the Soviets, right, or by the Chinese if you have
Yeah. So 2010, and then was released in 2015 from bankruptcy, 2 years before he retired. So I'm not really sure how that plays a part. But I know for military, those types of security clearances, you have a bankruptcy, you're not getting that clearance. Period.
Yeah. That's why Bob Lazar's getting clearance is a joke, because his wife was a convicted murderer and they had financial problems at the time, and she had ties to the Hells Angels.
Right.
No way that they would have given Bob Lazar a clearance to work on anything government related.
Yep.
And it's just amazing that people still push that story, even with the impossibility of it, like,
right.
It's literally impossible for this to happen.
Well, go back to that Tom DeLonge video, which is what, thank goodness that one guy posted it, who is now, I'm pretty sure, blocked me. But anyways, that was his response to something I was saying, and he posted that video, and I said, thank you so much for posting that video, because it was my starting point on how I could go back and look through some things. And I can tell you, like, we know that Lou Elizondo was not a wartime veteran, because he served in the Army from 1995 to 1998. That can be verified easily through, it was verified through the archives. And then on top of that, he was in Puerto Rico for 2 years, maybe possibly 2.5, came out in 2001. So, and then of course you got Tom DeLonge's story placing Lou Elizondo in Afghanistan and a month after 9/11, which is funny. with General Mattis, because General Mattis and the 1st Squadron didn't even get out of there till about a week, about November 25th, 2001, around about a week in between that. So that's not true. And on top of that, a 1-star general is not going to be in a Bradley, which I don't know if anybody knows. You can't kick a door open on a Bradley because a Bradley's a tank. So you can't be doing that. And I'm pretty sure he's not going to be in a T-shirt just firing off automatic grenade launchers. So I don't know if you noticed in that video, there's a couple of times that Tom DeLonge says, Lou says. Like, did Lou literally tell him the story? Because to me, that's a bigger issue.
He says Lou saved his life, but Lou would not even talk to him, and he was trying to brief him on this UFO topic. Like, I mean, really? If a guy saves your life and he won't even hear you, like it's kind of screwy.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you what. I would bet a lot of money that General Mattis has no idea who he is.
Yeah, and we have another. There's just examples all over the internet. This is supposed to be Mucha Property Group. David Grush. David and his wife are former military family that have found a home in Colorado. This is David's page. Oh, it's not there. Another one. It's like every mention of him is being sanitized, and that is highly suspicious. And unfortunately, a lot of these like business pages don't get crawled by Wayback. So I'm going to look into this off air though, because maybe I'll be able to pull up some more information on him being who he says he is. Because now I'm questioning everything. And also, I hate to be too conspiratorial, but like, it's just crazy that this guy's getting sanitized from the internet on a day this story comes out. That sounds like something that the CIA would do, right? Like, let's erase his past while he's saying this stuff so that nobody can look into his past. Or it's just crazy. And you're right on the Mattis thing. And wasn't Elizondo out of the military before 9/11 even started?
Yes.
So this story could not be true by like 10 different reasons why it can't be true.
On Lou's website, there's actually a picture of him standing out in the middle of what looks like a Ford operating base, which it actually was. And he's in uniform. But any downrange veteran is going to look at that picture and point out a million red flags. The uniform has no patches, no insignia, nothing on it. It's a blank uniform. On top of it, if he is a special ops guy or whatever he's claiming to be, even intelligence, he's going to have at least a side pistol strapped on his leg in an active war zone.
In an active war zone, yeah.
He has no weaponry. He has nothing in there. The vest he's got on is too big. He's got a goatee. Now, military standard, you either got a shaved face or a mustache. Special ops guys, spec op guys, they're allowed to have beards. You don't roll around in goatees. You don't do that. There's so many red flags, and that specific spot by a couple of veterans were confirmed to be a photo op spot for guys that fly in at that fob and then they fly out somewhere else. So
the guy's he's also like 5'5", like he's not very intimidating. I'm just saying, like, if you're gonna have
is he that short?
If you're gonna have somebody that's intimidating,
people have made memes of him making him a midget, or a little person. Sorry.
See, I have
he's like 5'3", I think.
Yep, and Vancouver guy, like he says, Lou was a paper pusher, and he was, because if you do the 3 years and break it down, the 3 years in the Army, you got that's accounting for basic training and also his schooling for the job, and then on top of that, you have he was stationed in Korea for a year, from what it looks like for tracking him. And then from there, you start your out processing, and that usually takes 4 to 6 months as well. So they're not going to deploy you anywhere. So he only has about a good legitimate year, maybe, that he did anything or was able to do anything. And that's just not long enough in intelligence field to really accomplish anything. So that's another red flag as well. And he didn't serve during wartime. So there's just so much there that doesn't add up big time. And on that website, that same picture, if you go and right click on it and you hit save as, it comes up wannabe. Like he's a wannabe, which is ironic because on his other pictures, they're correctly labeled. But that one says wannabe, and this is on his own website. So it's really
Sweet
weird.
Caroline
man.
is pointing out that she looked up this so-called whistleblower on the Colorado Division of Real Estate, and his license is inactive.
Interesting.
Another red flag, another problem. Why is he saying he's a real estate agent if he's not a licensed real estate agent?
So I read
know?
something in the chat a little while ago. It says that News Nation is owned by Nexstar, who also owns and employs George Knapp and Mystery Wire. I mean, the whole thing, it all ties back
Incestuous.
to the same
Yeah.
people. It's very incestuous, very, very incestuous. And I made a joke the other day about, it all ties back to, Hal Puthoff. Hal Puthoff is like been here for like 100 years. Like the guy's a vampire at this point. I mean, he's been tied back to everything. Like it's the same core group of people.
Yeah,
Always.
Carl the Crusher's got a good video about that, by the way. That links a lot of people to that, like that, including Hal Puthoff, or however you say his name, and then obviously Robert Bigelow, all those guys. And it runs
it's a
up
big
the
club.
chain.
And
Yeah,
we ain't in it.
it is a big club, 100%. So, and I think the way they do it, and people are like, well, why would Christopher Mellon push this? That his family is really wealthy, he has nothing to gain. I don't understand how people don't understand the concept of just because you have a lot of money doesn't mean you want to spend your money to do the research. Government contract, government funding, always follow the money. They're not going to pay out of their pocket to do this stuff when they can make money off of it and have it funded. And the way you do that is you hype things up and you try to say that there's evidence of this being out there and that needs to be looked into. And hey, we are the experts that can do that. And we obtain these government contracts and try to move forward with it. And that's really where it's all about, in my opinion.
Well, Bigelow's the perfect example. Somehow
Yep.
he got the government to give him $22 million to research his own ranch.
Fucking
why are we paying for this, dude?
Paranormal investigations on the ranch. They really weren't even looking into UFOs. And this is verified by people that actually worked there under Bigelow.
No, they were looking for poltergeists and skinwalkers and werewolves. And
EVP sessions and remote viewing and all that. They were literally having their employees do the tests on the property. That's where that money was going. It was never really looking into UFOs, which is ironic.
Since I have both of you here, there's something that's really been bugging me that I want to ask the two of you. You've seen Gary Nolan over and over and over again say, I was contracted by the CIA to do this research on, biological samples of people and pilots and that have been in contact with UFOs, yada, yada, yada. Okay, have either of you looked into that? He has never, ever actually provided anything about a CIA program. First of all, he said it was Kit Green, and he said it was, what's his name? Colm Kelleher, who was part of the OSAP Bigelow NIDS
two
team.
other club members, yeah.
Yeah. Goes back to the incestuous claim.
Anytime you get into the CIA, it gets very difficult to verify anything that people are saying. We've also got, for example, one example that I could give is the FBI. We've got John D'Souza running around saying that the FBI, that he was investigating paranormal things for the FBI. Go contact the FBI and get them to verify that claim or even answer whether that's true or not. Go do it. Because I'm telling you, it's a laugh riot. They're like, we can't comment on that. I'm like, you have a former FBI agent running around making money, pretending, apparently, allegedly, that he investigated paranormal things for the FBI, and you can't confirm or deny it, right? So right now I'm going up the chain. I have to go up the chain. They're like, well, you could talk to, this person who's my supervisor. They might be able to comment. Okay, get me them then. Like anytime you get into these alphabet soup agencies, these three-letter agencies, it becomes nearly impossible to get a straight answer out of them, which is why some of these UFO scams and cons work, because it's so hard to prove them wrong, right? And we've got D'Souza also saying that the producers of the X-Files stole his case files, and some of the episodes of the X-Files were about his real paranormal cases that he investigated for the FBI. Now you would think that claims that huge should address them. If they've got a former agent running around saying this stuff, if I worked there, I would address it. Look up his service record. He was a lawyer for the FBI.
So
which most
essentially,
likely
no
means
one
he
would be
sat
an
at a
agent,
desk
right?
and he never investigated anything. He most likely sat at a desk and never investigated anything. He was a lawyer. He probably worked on things like FISA warrants all day or stuff like that. But the fact that he's running around claiming this, you would think the government would want to set the record straight. Good luck figuring it out. I'm still trying.
So you have Nolan, who is like, with Stanford Institute, and everybody knows Stanford, and they know that their history and the Stanford Institute, their history is shady as all get out. Everything that they have ever done has been shady. So you got him going in front of people on Wall Street, the SALT conference, trying to get funding, trying to get money out of people.
Which could be considered a form of investment fraud if he's lying about those things.
Yeah, it's based on the fact that he has done work with the CIA in the past on UFOs. And I don't know if anybody picks up on his body language and the how he stumbles over himself, especially in the SALT conference several times. The guy is he's not providing anything. There's no timeline for any of these claims. Like if you look at Christopher Mellon, look at Luis Elizondo, look at Gary Nolan, look at all of these people. They all say this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened. But there is no dates. There's no timeline associated to any of it. There is no verifiable information that they give up. Everything is so vague. You're just basically going off of their word.
That's all it's ever been.
Yeah. And now and isn't it interesting that the True Believer side, did you know that Contact in the Desert is going on right now? And they are canceling certain things so that Richard Dolan and Daniel Sheehan can do a panel and talk about this story. Like they're canceling lectures so that they can pump this story at Contact in the Desert, the biggest UFO conference probably in the world.
Danny Sheehan has said his goal is to fund an office that has the same amount of funding that Arrow has so he can essentially fact check Arrow and make sure that Arrow is doing what they're told.
Yeah. Yeah, and now he'll get to hold up Sean Kirkpatrick saying there's no evidence of aliens, and this guy, the whistleblower, saying, "See, the government Arrow's lying to us. Give us money, we'll investigate it." It's a never-ending grift.
I'd like to see how he would even do that. Like, how would he obtain a clearance to even get that? To get that privilege.
Sheehan said a couple of interviews ago. He said, "Hey, charity. I'm having private investors come to my living room, and I'm throwing this big whole investor party, and I'm telling them all of this BS, basically, to get them to fund his freaking whatever he's trying to do."
Yeah, and Kevin says the new grift always has preferential treatment. They got to cancel their presentations on their old grifts because this new grift is going to, and isn't it, one of the things too is how quickly, all of these shows now, everybody's doing a show on this today, everybody. So, I mean, I'm thankful because I thought it was going to be a slow week. And then somebody woke me up relatively early for me today. A source of mine woke me up and said, "Stephen, you could tell I was like half asleep." He's like, "Did you see what happened?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "You got to go to the debrief," and I'm like, "Oh boy, here's the whistleblowers," and we're fresh off of busting Greer's fake whistleblowers as fake. So now I kind of feel obligated that I have to do a deep dive on this guy. Because I want to be balanced. Like, I want to bust balls equally. Like, if I'm going to bust Stephen Greer's balls for having fake whistleblowers, let's see. But this guy seems like I can't imagine them saying all that stuff about his credentials if all of it is fake. But I have a feeling that it's not going to be quite as they presented him. He's not going to be quite as he's being presented.
We need you more on this side.
Elizondo, director of the Pentagon $22 million UFO program. Oh, no, he's not. And no, he didn't. That wasn't his full-time job. He just did it in his spare time. It wasn't funded. You know, the Elizondo story fell apart. It just took so long. It like fell apart in slow motion over years. I have a feeling this one's going to go quicker, whether he's on the level, this guy, or not. But the fact that he's in bed with Mellon and Elizondo and News Nation, there's another connection. You're right, Jess. News Nation has ties to Corbell and Knapp, right? and Colt Art's been caught selling completely fake stories multiple times. So as much as I would love if this was true. Wouldn't you guys? I would love it if this was true. Oh my God, this would be awesome. Show me the aliens. Show us the craft. Show us what you have going back decades.
So, that's the thing. All of the people who are skeptical, we all came here because we want it to be true. But then we like actually dig into some of these people's claims and realize, oh, you know, some of these people are, you know, full of it. And then they say, oh, it's because you're afraid. I've been told that, like, you know, CAB, like calling all beans. I spent an hour last year talking to this dude, and he told me, hey, the only reason you don't want to believe is because you're afraid. You got to stop being afraid, and you got to, like, he tried to talk me down. He tried to tell me you're just afraid of aliens. Yeah. Like, are you freaking crazy, dude?
I've tried. I've literally said this multiple times on Twitter and Spaces. And people are like, "Oh, you're just a skeptic, debunker." And I'm an enthusiast. I do think that there possibly is something out there. I am overly skeptical of the community, and I always have been because of the things I've seen, the things I've uncovered. I mean, on the paranormal side, Ed and Lorraine Warren. You know, we're not going to get into ghosts, but they were the biggest frauds that we've seen in a long time. I mean, it was a big deal, and there's a lot to prove that that's the case. You come over here, it's kind of the same MO, and that's what I'm saying. Like that, I hate using the word grift all the time, but there are people that have realized that in a subject like this that has a huge like gray area, there is money to be made here, and I feel like that's still the driving factor, but I do want it to, like, if it's true, I want it to be true, and I want to just enjoy it and everything like that. I'm just skeptical of the community. The community is what the human beings tend to not always play nice. But the phenomenon I'm here for if it's legit.
You know, one of the things that always kind of irks me when I talk to some of the true believers, and I'm friendly with a lot of them, like, it's okay, you know, we can agree to disagree. But one of the problems I have with the total believer side is that they appear to just totally ignore the entire history of grifting, scamming, and lying and cheating and manipulating stories to sell them and hoaxes. They just kind of ignore it. And after a while, I kind of go, you know, is it not relevant, for example, in the story we're talking about today? Is it not relevant that the three people that are selling this story have provably been caught selling fake stories before? Does that not give you a reason to doubt the validity of this one? It's like they cried wolf already several times, but now we're supposed to believe the wolf is real. Makes no sense to me.
Some of the larger believers, I believe, that are, so, I mean, you could have tiers of people in this community, just like you have celebrities. A-list, B-list, C-list, D-list. So some of these, let's say D-list celebrities, are so caught up with wanting to be involved that they just completely dismiss all of the red flags because they want to be acknowledged. They want to have that credibility. They want to be famous. I mean, that it's a huge calling for some people. Some people need to be needed. Yeah, and I think that's where a lot of these like people who are pushing this stuff, like, look at Chris Sharp. This guy parrots anything that Corbell gives to him without vetting him at all. This guy is a young guy. He come out of nowhere. He wants to be on Corbell's good list, so he will do anything that Corbell says. Yeah. I mean, that's the truth. The fact of the matter is, it's a hard truth that some of these people will do anything to be heard and seen because they want to fit in. It's like,
yeah, and you also have to remember that a lot of people, this is the first time anybody some of these guys, like I was in the entertainment business. I've had more spotlight on me than any one man should ever have in their entire life. So I could take it or leave it, but I could imagine, and I have thought about this, some of these people that get involved in the UFO scene, it's like suddenly people are listening to them and they're special. It's that spotlight. And they've never had that before. Nobody ever cared about them. Nobody listened to them before. And suddenly they get into this tiny little subculture. And let's not forget that this is a tiny, tiny subculture. There's more people that play Dungeons and Dragons than they're into UFOs, right? There's more people that cosplay than are into UFOs. There's more Trekkies than guys that are into UFOs. Of course, there's some overlap there. And yeah, I see this. Ignoring red flags is my superpower.
Just saying, I could be on their team.
I get in an argument. I go, is it not relevant that all of this has happened before and it will all happen again? Or, with people that like support Stephen Greer, I say, do you know how many times he's been caught lying? Like about ridiculous things, like, going on secret missions with Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top, or an entire company in the state of Michigan got murdered, or he briefed every sitting U.S. president since Ronald Reagan. It just goes on and on and on. And he got offered $5 billion to stop talking about aliens. People on his team got assassinated. Like, at some point, you have to say, like, is this not relevant that this guy's been caught lying so many times? It's so ridiculous, but they still believe him. And there are people. He's going to make $500,000 from this event that he's got coming up. And he's already made $600,000 or $650,000 in crowd funds to make the documentary he's going to be debuting, which costs, maybe $20,000. So he just pocketed $630,000 probably, allegedly. And then before that, he had a free energy charity where he was supposed to give everybody a free energy device. And he collected $500,000 for that. So this guy's up to $1.1 million for free energy. Hasn't proven anything. Hasn't provided a device. Oh, he's going to give us a film about it, though.
Didn't he say UFOs are running drugs?
Oh, yeah. They're using UAPs to run drugs now. Or is it ARVs? Alien reproduction vehicles?
Okay. So I have actually taken up for that.
Absolutely, positively got to get the coke from Colombia to the United States as fast as you can.
Here's the thing. The cartel actually does use drones to run drugs and stuff. Sure. But he has rebranded it to make it look like it's UFOs that people are using. So that's the discrepancy. So there is a precedent for the cartel using unmanned aerial vehicles or drones.
Bull. Take one nugget of truth, tiny nugget of truth, and pile on bull.
Yeah, exactly.
And we covered this guy, Eric Hecker, who says that he's testifying before the Senate Intelligence Committee next week or the same week that Greer's event is. But guess what? Nobody that I talk to even knows who he is. And he's not scheduled to talk to anybody. So these are problems for these fake whistleblowers. If you're going to say I'm testifying before the Senate Intelligence Committee, we can call. We can fact check that and see if you're actually testifying. They might not tell us what you're testifying about or whatever, but they're gonna, it's a whole thing. And that guy, again, a nugget of truth and pile on 3 tons of BS on top. The guy worked as a plumber at the North Pole for a year. But everything else that he says, he says he has all this evidence. You go to his website where he says all the evidence is. It's like things he got from the blackvault.com about, energy weapons or, like generic, long declassified documents. They don't mention him. He has very little in the form of evidence or proof. He has pictures of him at the North Pole. Okay. Apparently, while he was working on the toilets at the North Pole, he saw energy weapons.
Has it been, I don't know, people have asked me this. Is he really a doctor?
He was for like 3 years.
He was for a very short time.
Looked into his background. He was for 3 years, and then after the 3 years, he nosedived into the UFO community. He was for 3 whole years a doctor in the emergency room, like caring for, patients that come in off the streets. So,
Well, I
3
mean,
years.
I'm not going to knock that. I mean, he's a doctor. He did the work to get there, but he still uses the doctor, does he not, in his name all the time?
Yeah, well,
Ramon?
it for a lot of people, a doctor is more credible
Right.
than, like just if he was like, I'm Stephen Greer and I'm an expert on UFOs. No, I'm Dr. Stephen Greer and I'm an expert on UFOs and extraterrestrial life. But things have always been scammy with him. And of course, hooking up with the third phase of Moon makes him even more credible. They're making his films with him now and stuff. The guys who have hoaxed more UFOs than anybody on Earth. I don't understand that relationship, but it is what it is. We have the biggest UFO fraudsters on planet Earth making films with Dr. Greer, which are largely just repeats of stuff he's already said years ago, just repackaged, big money grab.
Yeah, it's all
I
like
have a question.
Go ahead.
All right, so this new guy, David Grush, said that he doesn't necessarily believe that it's extraterrestrial. So what do you guys think that he's thinking? Like, is he trying to say that it's like some
I think he's saying that
Nazi craft, or like
no, I think he's saying that like maybe he watched Planet of the Apes and he thinks the monkeys made the spaceships, because I don't understand that myself. Just what other species on Earth then made these devices if it's not a species from outside our solar system?
He might be a big fan of Ancient Aliens.
Could be. Yeah, could be that. Maybe it's the anchovy people that Corey Good talks about that live in the inner Earth, or the Atlanteans or the Lemurians.
So we got the Atlantean people, the lizard people, the mole people, the everything from Antarctica. Like, I mean, Gary Nolan, like when he was in the SALT conference, he said that he thought that they were drones that were coming here and they were not biological entities. So if you look at Gary Nolan's recent comments versus this guy's recent comments, like there's a little bit of a discrepancy in like what they actually believe that where these entities are coming from and what they are.
Yeah, and one way that his story could be true, and this is kind of mind-blowing, but stay with me for a moment. What if China or some other foreign entity had made a huge leap in artificial intelligence and had artificial intelligence designing drone systems, right? And I don't know if you've read about even just the advances in materials like graphene over the past few years have been remarkable. So what if there's an AI on planet Earth that is making some kind of exotic drones, designing them, and they're manufacturing them, and then the United States somehow gets a hold of one of these things and starts looking at it and going, this has got some kind of weird electrogravitic pulsed, propulsion system, and the materials seem 3D printed, not something that we would normally manufacture, and the materials that comprise the thing are kind of exotic, like graphene related or other materials, and we get a hold of that. Then it could be true. These are craft not made by human intelligence, but it's still not aliens, which is what most people believe that these people are pushing.
Now, did he say there were full craft, or did he say there were pieces
intact
recovered?
craft?
Okay,
He said both.
Craft.
He said intact
Both, yeah.
craft that have crashed and landed. He said craft that has landed. That's a huge thing for me to quote from him.
But he's never seen
because
that.
that would indicate that they're giving us. What if there have been various stories where, according to Lazar or some of the Lazar supporters, they gave us these craft. So they landed them and said, here, you can play with these, which makes no sense. It's like giving a child matches, Or
so they have to be currently viable entities that are either operating or maneuvering these craft, unless it's like some sort of AI. Like these are current I don't know if it's
man.
biological or AI entities that are operating these craft, but if something is currently landing, unless something landed like 100,000 years ago and we found something that allegedly landed, like, I mean, that's like something that throws me off. Like, what does he
Yeah.
mean by landed?
I know. Could mean anything, right?
Really could. I mean, but like I've stated, he never saw it, right? This is just something he's been told.
Exactly. Just like Nolan's never saw it, never been told. Just like Weinstein's never saw it, never been told. Salas, like everybody.
It's all
Find
chase
me
the carrot.
somebody that has actually seen it and touched it. They've
Well,
never
you got
touched
Bob
a
Lazar,
craft.
the convicted pimp fake scientist. He
I
said
love
he was in it.
I love Nolan's story though. He was like, I got this close, and then all of a sudden they said, nope, you're not going to touch it. And he was like, yep, that's what happened. So they're out there. That was basically his story. He's like, yep, I was supposed to touch it. I was supposed to see it. And then last minute they said, the powers to be said, nope, you can't do that. And you know what? But they're real, guys. I promise you. I never got to see it, but they're real. That's where
I
we're
don't
at.
trust Nolan because Nolan lied to me, specifically to me, on a space that I talked to him
Nobody should
last
trust
year.
him. Here's what I always say about Nolan. Go look up the Stanford Code of Ethics. Go look it up. It's on the internet. It says that no university professor or employee can personally profit from the use of Stanford labs, equipment, or personnel. Then go ask Ross Coulthard, did you get paid to be in all these UFO stories that you were in or these documentaries you were in while you're using university labs, equipment, and personnel? He won't answer those questions, right? That's a problem for him.
Yeah.
So I asked Nolan last year. I said, "Hey, rumor has it that you looked at all of Chris Bledsoe's, um, you know, all of his biological stuff that he's given you, all of his samples and everything that you studied him." And Nolan said on a space, "No, I have never, ever, ever questioned who are the people that I'm studying because it would be like a breach of ethics. Like we're not allowed to see who exactly we're studying. That's like I don't know. I'm not a scientist, so I don't know exactly what he's saying, but he's saying that he's not allowed to see who is tied to the samples. And then when he goes on to what's his face's interview last year, he said, I specifically said I want to know who all of these people were that I was studying, and he was given access to all their files and their names and everything else. Okay, well that's a discrepancy.
That's
So
a huge discrepancy. Yeah.
either you did see these people and know who they are,
We'll
or
talk
you
about
didn't.
this for a moment too, because Grand Abra is asking, have you talked about the fact that he faces prison and was under oath? Well, here's the problem that I have with that situation. If he believed that what he was saying was true because people told him it, they're not going to hold his feet to the fire if it all turns out to be bull, because he repeated what he was told. He's not the originator of the stories. He's a secondhand person retelling an account of being told these things. So I don't think they're going to hold him, to, oh, you were under oath and you lied to us, or these stories are all fake, because he could just say, people told me these things and here's who told me them. Take it up with them,
He's already said that.
Yeah.
Right?
And the other issue is that people are saying that he could face $100,000 fine or prison time for lying in an IG complaint, but we've already seen that Lou Elizondo essentially lied in his IG complaint. Nobody prosecuted him. So I think it's, it's one of those situations where we're not quite sure. It's not a hard, fast rule. Like you lie, you get prosecuted.
He said to me that Kit Green gave him the samples without telling him who the people were who tied to his samples.
Yeah,
and then
like
he come out later.
Straight. Yeah, he can't get his story
he
straight.
come out later and said that he specifically, and who was the guy? What's his face? Last year that he did, the news guy, I can't remember, but he said that he come out on his story and said, yeah, I specifically asked
Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, Tucker Carlson. He said, I specifically asked who all of these people were so I can investigate their backgrounds. So he comes out, I mean, it's a blatant lie. he says one thing and then a few months later says a completely opposite
and
thing.
you don't know what he was telling Tucker Carlson when the cameras were off and they weren't rolling. That's another thing. Sometimes this inside baseball, it's like, you know, I always tell people, if you think what some of these people say publicly on YouTube is wacky, get behind their paywalls. Get behind their pay, like Linda Moulton Hale. You think what she says on YouTube publicly is wacky and like ridiculous and stupid and completely garbage? Get behind her paywall. See what she posts there. Same for all of these people. Dolan, a lot of them, they put the most wacky stuff behind their paywall. And then it's like, if this stuff is true and you're charging people extra money for it, and you know these would be groundbreaking, important stories, why aren't you putting them out publicly? They're only behind your paywall. That's what I have observed from many of these people.
I'm just happy somebody got to talk to Nolan because he blocked me before I can even comment.
He blocked me for asking the ethics questions.
I have never even tweeted him one time, and somebody mentioned him, and I was like, "Oh, Gary Nolan." I looked him up, and he says blocked. I was like, "What?"
This was before he went
got put
on
the
his
list,
blocking spree.
Chris.
People
tell him who he's allowed to talk to. You know that, right? People tell him. People. I'm sure of this. People tell him and other of the talking heads, like, stay away from Steve Cambian, stay away from Paranormal Chris. People have told me later that people told them to block me, don't watch my show, don't listen to me, I'm a liar, and all this stuff, right? It's like they don't want people hearing the other side of the aisle, the alternate viewpoint to the narratives that are being fed these people.
Well, it's just like, why not have open dialogue, you know, or discourse? Like, why can't, you know, instead of just talking to people, even if they don't agree with you, like, wouldn't you want to state your claim and show the evidence to back your claims and like, hey, this is why I think this way. And then maybe you have some influence on changing their minds. Instead, we just block people. Like, and I literally have never tweeted the guy. So
this is something I truly believe, Jess. Linda Moulton Howe killed those cows with a shovel. She killed those cows herself so she'd have a story to sell.
Has she ever talked about all of the needles and the syringes and everything else that's been found up underneath the cows? That
she may have. I kind of turn off when it comes to her. You know, any woman that gets caught 3 times selling completely fake alien pictures as real pictures is not somebody that I want to waste time listening to anymore.
Yeah, I don't listen to her either. She's a little bit cray-cray.
That's kind of the problem too, is like, is credibility, like, it's such a huge thing, and it's I feel like it's so underrated in this community. Like, if you're willing to put out those kind of pictures, like, that doesn't help the credibility of the overall phenomenon community, and how the general public perceives it.
Especially not when you get caught with them being fake.
But it's all about that gray area and the money. Like, people just see that I could be an influence. Like, here's this, and they'll take it the next step further, and they'll always try to test the waters. And I'm telling you, we hang around here long enough, you're gonna see people start to go down. I feel like all these classified leaks and everything, it's gonna happen. I hate it for other people that get caught up in that, because that's some scary stuff.
All right, here's a weird question. I have a really, really weird question. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen Diana Pasulka, but she has come forward several times speaking that she doesn't want anything to do with the CIA or any of these like CIA people. And then you have Gary Nolan, who she's like,
cozying up to,
who's just cozying up to, who's like, CIA come towards me, and he CIA essentially funded all of my research. Nobody has come forward and said that they have funded Gary Nolan's work. Gary Nolan has come forward and said, I did work for the CIA. It's never been confirmed by anybody at all.
Well, just for shits and giggles, and I'm going to record it for you, Jess, I'll call the CIA and I'll ask him I'll get his direct quotes of what exactly he said, and I'll send it to them, and I'll call them and follow up, and I'll record the calls because I don't know. I get a kind of sick, perverse pleasure out of doing that kind of stuff, you know, because sometimes the people on the other end of the line are like, you want to know what?
I mean, he said 10,000 times. See, I mean, he said 10,000 times.
Yeah.
CIA has funded me. CIA has, you know, they have bought this, they have bought that, you know, information from me. They have funded all of my research. Like, but it's never been corroborated by anybody, and everybody is like quiet on it. Nobody's asking these questions.
That hurts my feelings that the CIA operative doesn't want to, like, he blocked me. Like, it just kind of hurts my feelings that he does that. I don't understand. Like, I just would like to, like, we should, it's almost like these people have something to hide and like they're scared to be verified. Like, they make these outrageous claims and they're really
in a
scared.
delusion bubble. They don't want to be
Somebody had to commission his work. Somebody had to commission Gary Nolan's work. Either it was CIA, and George Knapp I've asked George Knapp, and he has gone on record with me and said, no, Gary Nolan did his work after OSAP ended. But Gary Nolan comes out and said it was Colm Kelleher and George Knapp. So does that mean Colm Kelleher is part of the CIA? But, you know, he's also said it was an aerospace corporation. Like, there's so many discrepancies in all of this. Like, nothing ends up.
Nothing pans out. Yeah.
Nothing pans out.
Well, I'll be interested to see if this story falls apart and how quickly it falls apart. But one thing that I'm hopeful for is if it is going to fall apart, I want it to fall apart like tomorrow. I don't want to wait 3 or 4 years to find out that this is all garbage, because what's going to happen is an awful lot of people are going to waste an awful lot of time and resources arguing about this for years until we get some kind of definitive proof of, yes, this is true and there is these programs and these materials, or no. You know, one thing that's suspicious to me is that the government just comes out. First, they let the guy talk about this. He's claiming that these are classified projects, and then they come out and say, we have no credible evidence of aliens or extraterrestrial retrieved anything. You know, it's very suspicious to me. It's like something with this whole story is just not right. It's just.
I wonder how much backtracking is going to happen over the next week or two. I mean, it could start tomorrow, to be honest with you. I mean, because there was some pretty outrageous claims. You know what I mean? Like, there were claims that people have been wanting to hear for decades, and this guy said it. And I have a feeling you're going to see some of this stuff get walked back.
Yeah, and I want to get both your reactions. Speaking of walking back, this is a very short clip of cult art, and talk about walking back. Like, tell me if I'm wrong here in this clip. Let's review this real quickly.
When you say crash retrieval, what do you mean?
These are retrieving non-human origin technical vehicles, you know, call it spacecraft if you will.
Mr. Grush is quite clear that he's not saying it's necessarily extraterrestrial.
Non-human origin.
That he's not saying it's necessarily extraterrestrial.
Call it spacecraft if you will.
That he's not saying it's necessarily extraterrestrial.
Then what are you saying?
Oh, hey, little space monkey.
Non-human origin technical vehicles, you know, call it spacecraft if you will.
I'm so confused by that. If it's not aliens, then what non-human entities created these technologies or these materials? Are we talking about angels? Are we talking about demons? Are we talking about the inner earth people?
Angels, demons, interterrestrials, cryptoterrestrials, ultra-terrestrials, Antarctica people, time travelers. Like, I went through all of this today. Mole people, you got lizard people, you got all kinds of crazy ass answers to that question.
I didn't realize there were so many different versions. I need to do some catching up. That's crazy. I you know, try walking that back. I mean, what does he mean? Where do they come from? Like, to say that it's non-human, but then to say and then Collard said extraterrestrial. Like, where are we at with that? Like, I feel
that's what I said. That's why I joked as the monkeys. Are these things made by monkeys then? Space monkeys made them?
I mean, there's a discrepancy from what Nolan said. Nolan said it's possibly like androids or like drones from like another civilization. Okay, so drones from another civilization, does that not equate to extraterrestrial?
I would think so. Yeah,
that would be it. Yeah, that would be the definition.
Even if it's extraterrestrial AI, it's still
Yeah.
not of this earth. It's still extraterrestrial.
Yeah, if we didn't make it, right? If it's not from here, then that would be extraterrestrial.
And don't you think this is a weird way of saying? Okay, but
I'm about to leave you guys,
before you
but
go,
I'm just
one more question. Don't you think this is a weird way of saying? I'm not saying it was aliens, guys, but it was probably aliens, right? It's like cake and eat it too time.
It's pretty much what it is.
Crazy, but I mean, you guys are two of the best of the best. That's like, you know, like looking into this stuff. The question is who is Richard Butt? Who
Jay
is
Stratton?
A lot of people say he's Jay Stratton.
Jay Stratton or it's Lou Elizondo. It's one or the other.
It's not Lou Elizondo. I've heard his voice. It's not Lou Elizondo. I've heard his voice.
Have you heard Jay Stratton's voice?
Yes, it's very, very similar. But the thing is, Richard Butt is a fucking asshole.
Oh.
If that's Jay Stratton, then we have a serious, even a bigger problem than what we thought we had before. Who is that guy?
Yeah, and why is he pushing all the narratives that all the grifters are pushing? Because that's what he does. He pushes the grifter narratives.
Issue.
Good news, he doesn't have me blocked.
I think he has me blocked. Maybe not.
All right. Well, it was a good conversation. I'm gonna let you guys go.
I'm sorry to
It's
keep you guys so long. I didn't even
here.
realize we've gone so long. See, I could go on forever with this, but
Yeah, me too. Like, this is awesome.
I think we
We'll do
covered
it again.
everything, and thank you, because I think at this point we're just going to be spinning wheels. So,
yep.
Thanks, Jess.
All
Don't
right.
be a stranger.
Yeah, never will be. Thanks, you guys. Bye.
See you,
All right.
Jess.
Bye-bye. We got Jess and Paranormal Chris. You're still here hanging with us, but I'll throw you out of here as well.
Yeah.
I will be. I have a feeling both of us are going to be following this story closely. So I'd be happy to share with you anything that I find.
Yeah, it's gonna. I'm telling you, the background's going to be key here, especially since it's very suspect what we can't find at this point, and we have to go off what the the debrief has put out there about this guy.
Yeah, but you know what? I want to ask you, like, does it even not matter if all of his credentials check out, but he still has no evidence? Does it even matter that he has all these credentials? Not to me. It's kind of like that guy from, who said there's weapons, there's energy weapons in Antarctica. Like, okay, you can prove that you worked on toilets at the North Pole. That doesn't prove your claims, though. That just proves you're telling the truth about your background.
And it's a good possibility, Stephen, and I'll just be honest with you, that it may have nothing to do with his background. His credentials might not have anything to do with this outside of the fact that he just, especially if he's rubbed elbows with Lou, there's probably a good chance that this guy's an enthusiast and they're going to be like, hey, I believe in alien. I talked to some guys. I really think this thing is legit. And they're like, hey, yeah, you should go public with this. You have the right credentials for it. You should do it. And you know what I mean? Like at some point, those credentials aren't really going to matter if nothing comes from it. It seems like they're going to put him on the pedestal because of his credentials. And one of the first things you see, I think there's a Q&A or something with McMillan, where they talk about the vetting process, and they talk about like that's one of the key factors to this whole thing is they tout.
Well, 3/4 of the story was the who, not the why. And that's problematic for me because, at some point you go, okay, he's credentialed, but where's the meat of the story? That is in his claims.
Right.
It's like it's like they're using his background to sell the story without having the evidence to sell the story. The evidence is his background. We're just supposed to trust him because of his background, and I don't. I'm sorry. Because we've been here before. Lou Elizondo. It's like Lou Elizondo 2.0. I'm not buying this one.
Don't question the story because this guy's credentials. That's basically what it was. That was to tout that, and then just kind of go with what he says. Again, no evidence. They say it's classified, whatever. But I think the community, the skeptical people like us, we need to see that evidence, because if not, then it's just another talking head that's just come out here, and it's the same old story repackaged, and it's just getting old.
Yeah,
what I mean?
I agree with you 100%. And I will still say, though, that I hope that it is non-human intelligence and they do have proof of craft, because I want to meet the space monkeys that made these things, or whoever
Right.
they are. Like, that it would be, I don't know why I care so much about finding out that we're not alone in the universe, but for some reason, I always have.
Yeah,
Right?
it's
Maybe it'll just make us feel a little less alone or a little less special. I don't know. I've always wanted that to be true. I want to find out if that is true. It'd be a huge waste of space in the universe if we are the only intelligent creatures. And I think there has to be somewhere, there has to be intelligent life.
Well, it's not necessarily a good thing, too. If you think about it, like there could be negative consequences to knowing that we're not alone. You know, we might not be as significant as we think. And there's so many possibilities that could help explain our origin. I mean, I hope, just like you, I grew up hoping after my experience that this thing was really real. And that if it'd be great to find out that these things are nice and cordial and we can live, knowing that these things are out here. But
What, you don't want to get anally probed, paranormal Chris? Come on, it might be fun. You don't know.
I mean, I'm not
Try
going
anything once.
I'm not here to kink shame anybody. You know what I mean? But it's just not I don't think that would be on the top of my choices of things to do with aliens.
I am still keeping 5% of me hoping that this guy's legit and what he heard is really true, and like maybe 10%. I don't know. I really want it to be true, but my desire for it to be true does not make it so, paranormal Chris.
Right. Yeah. What's that
Proof
saying?
Does.
Yeah, desire over proof, or proof over desire type thing.
Mhm.
I hope since he's a veteran, especially an Air Force veteran, I hope that it is true. You know what I mean? Like I would love that a veteran came out and he made this thing happen. Hopefully he did it in the right way. But if it's not, then I mean, the guy's life is going to take a turn, and probably not for the better. It's going to hurt his credibility for a long time.
Yeah. He won't have any career left with the government, that's for sure.
It's a big step.
I want to thank you for doing this with me. I didn't want to be the only negative Nelly, pissing all over everybody's hopes and dreams here, but I think urging caution is the best bet here, and we'll see where the story goes. I'll keep following it.
Temper expectations. Best thing you can say.
Good advice. All right. Well, thank you, Paranormal Chris.
Yes, sir. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, you have a good evening. All right, friends. And we want to thank Stoned Ape for a kind and generous $4.99 super chat saying just boo. Boo you, Stoned Ape. But thank you for your kindness, your generosity, and your support of the show. I'll take a few comments and questions from the live chat. And we want to take a moment to thank our kind and generous benefactors, you Patreon supporters, you YouTube channel members, you super chatters, super sticker purchasers, and you PayPal pledgers, and also you Twitch subscribers. Thank you all for your kindness, generosity, and support. We want to thank David B. for a kind and generous $6 PayPal pledge. Says, thanks for your work and for bringing a tear to my eye by replaying that Stephen Greer superpower origin story. Well, thank you, David B., for your kindness, generosity, and support. And we want to thank a mysterious benefactor for a kind and generous $200 PayPal pledge. And they know who they are. Says, thanks, brother. Keep it going. I don't think they want their name announced. If they do, let me know. And I will certainly call you out and give you a shout out by name. And we want to thank initials KE for a kind and generous $65 PayPal pledge. Thank you so much, all of you, for your kindness, generosity, and support of the show. It is much, much appreciated. And we're upgrading computers here and doing a lot of different things so that we can continue this journey. We thank you all for your kindness, generosity, and support. The other thing I'm supposed to remind you of is to be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share these videos. And if you're listening to an audio podcast, please rate it 5 stars. Help us rise in the search engines. It really does help. And my final call to action, if you really want to help us, we've got a huge backlog of previous shows. So please watch one more. Maybe not tonight, but sometime tomorrow, while you're driving, while you're working, while you're cleaning the house, while you're cooking dinner, while you're running from your children, like I might be. and my children have one more week. This is the last week of school. And then I'm going to be in a bad mood for about 2 months. They're going to be home every day driving me nuts. And my wife, she likes me to, like, you know, do things with them, take them places. And oh, I'm in for it. Yeah. But watch one more. It really does help because the algorithm apparently sees you came back and watched another one. They crank up the dials for us. It would really, really help us. We want to thank our guests tonight, Go Kicks Rocks. Go Kick Rocks on Twitter. You should follow her. She's interesting follow on Twitter. I've been following her for a long time. And her and I agree on many things. We disagree on many things. She's deeply plugged into this. And, of course, Paranormal Chris as well. Follow him on Twitter. We have done our due diligence. And honestly, I'm going to wait for more evidence or proof of this man's claims. Most of me thinks that people like Eric Davis and Gary Nolan told this guy stuff, and he just believed it and he ran with it. And what we also have to keep in mind from a human perspective is, what if this guy is a victim of the, let's just call it the cult of UFOs? What if many different people who are already had their mind made up got to this guy and fed him false information, and now he may destroy his life over a bunch of fake stories that no one will ever be able to verify? It's very interesting to me that the government so quickly came out and said, we don't have anything like that. So then I guess you decide, who are you gonna listen to? Are you gonna listen to a guy connected to a known liar who lied about running a program that never existed? A guy who's connected heavily to this whole UFO circus club, you know, the club of people that are pushing this narrative and have been for years? Or are you going to believe the government who says we don't have these things? I don't believe either of them. To be quite honest, I'm somewhere in the middle here. But we will be continuing to cover this story. I have a few things that I've planned. And one of them is sort of a deep dive into this guy's claims, his background, his military service, his credentials. But I have a feeling that those are going to pan out. And what we're going to be left with is a guy that's incredibly credentialed, who's telling a lot of stories that he can't prove. And I'm very suspicious of this excuse. Well, it's national security. I can't share the documents with you. A real whistleblower would just go, here's the proof, bitches. He didn't do that. He's kind of he's doing the half measure. Like, well, I'm going to tell you all this stuff is true, but I'm not going to actually prove any of it. The proof is in the fact that I'm very credentialed and, you know, I'm the real deal. I was in intelligence. I would know if this was real or not. And people in intelligence came and told me this. For all we know, this guy is getting psyoped. Or this guy is part of an ongoing CIA infiltration into the UFO community. And we've detailed all of this before. There is multiple CIA people and disinformation agents and alphabet soup. Take your pick. DIA, NSA, CIA, and more. All of them infiltrating the UFO community with stories about aliens that none of them ever prove. And I find it highly suspicious that so many members of the government or former members of the government are actively infiltrating the UFO community, searching out and getting spotlight. And they tell alien stories that don't ever pan out with actual meat on the bones evidence, or especially smoking gun evidence. I find that highly suspicious. Al Garay says, I'm still waiting for the whistleblower who says, here's the proof, bitches. Yeah, me too. We're all waiting for that, right? Yeah, and Mr. Ian is saying, I'm a stage magician who has my own forest to rig with magical effects for his kids. I'm kind of jealous a bit there. I didn't even get started on the new place yet. I'm still going to be working on the old place. The bathroom's still not done. It's this close to being done. I got a few more things to do there. I'm hoping to finish up this weekend. We'll see what happens. But I got a birthday party for my youngest son. The Cash Clown's birthday is June 11th. So that's coming up. And we're having a party for him on Sunday, on his birthday. which is rare. You know, normally when you have a kid, you do the cake and ice cream, just you and your wife and the kids when it's his actual birthday, and then you have the parents come on the weekend. It just so happened this weekend, we get to have the party on his actual birthday, and he is excited. And boy, you should see his birthday list. I couldn't even imagine. He's turning 7 years old already, and I'm feeling old, right? I was giving back rides today, and the 7-year-old's not hard to manage. He's a little one, but my 10-year-old, he's getting heavy, man. You know, and they think, and then they act like they're still like, you know, tiny, right? So we've done our due diligence so far for this story. I've shared with you all of these red flags that I think should be an issue, right? Now I know that most of the true believers are just going to ignore the red flags. They're all jizzing in their pants today, like this is the greatest thing ever. I also should have mentioned that I find it highly suspicious that this man came along and essentially confirmed everything a lot of UFO believers already believe. There's crashed extraterrestrial spacecraft. We're back engineering it. We've got bodies. He confirmed everything all these people desperately want to believe. That I think is highly suspicious. But it is what it is. So we are going to bounce on out of here. But before I leave you, I should mention that there's a new music video by Simon Fly, and it's perfect for today because it's let me see, what is it actually called? I apologize, Simon Fly. Whistleblower in the Wind D&B mix by Simon Fly. So we're going to play us out with that. I'll be back tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, here with you all. If you're new to the channel, please come back. You should know that we are seriously invested in and interested in these topics, but we cover these things from a cautious and critical eye or point of view. We don't just blindly accept stories without evidence here. If that's a problem for you, then I understand. But if you're really interested in the truth behind these topics and you want people to really dig in and fact check and vet and do research, this is a good place for you. So we want to thank all of you for joining us. We want to thank our kind and generous benefactors, our wonderful guests, Jess, Go Kick Rocks, and Paranormal Chris. And we want to thank all of you. What an incredible audience that we have had this evening. I will be back tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, friends. And that's all we got for you tonight. Until next time, my name is Stephen Cambion. Good night, and God bless all of you. Mother of hooker. Mother of hooker. I call your mother a 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 hooker. Mother a hooker. Mother a hooker.
UAPs, otherwise known as UFOs. UAPs, otherwise known as UFOs. Anomaly Resolution Office, or ARROW. UAPs, otherwise known as UFOs. UAPs, otherwise known as UFOs. Anomaly Resolution Office, or ARROW.
These are retrieving non-human origin technical vehicles. You know, no kidding, non-human. No kidding, non-human.
We have spacecraft from another species.
We do, yeah.
We have spacecraft from another species.
We do, yeah.
UAPs, otherwise known as UFOs. UAPs, otherwise known as UFOs.
I call your mother a hooker.